First, I'm just going to talk about us as a species. We're a very funny and unique species of humans. We are humans, but even among other humans, I feel like we are very unique because we love the dark. We love to stay inside our room. We're in love with our computer. We are in love with the work we do. We don't care about other people. We don't care about anything else. If it came to be, we wouldn't even care about food. Am I right? That's how we work. That's how we function. That's our comfort zone, right? So that's why it's so amazing to see all of you here today, coming out of your comfort zone, making the effort just to be here and just to gather and meet other people of the same species. So that's why I want to welcome you all, and let's give a round of applause for everybody that's here. Thank you for coming. So my name is Anil Neopane. I've been running a small studio called Jazz Productions for the last 10 years. And I recently started an animation studio called QI Animation Studios with my amazing friends. We've been running it for the last 3 years. And so today it is my absolute honor and privilege to be here in front of you in this amazing event, amazing day to be hosting this program. But just to give you a full disclaimer, I am not a professional host, right? So please expect some fumbling, some mistakes. I might fall over the stage or whatever. I don't know. I have no idea. So in case that happens, I've actually planted some spies in the audience. So if I make some mistake, they're going to make some funny sounds and you're going to be distracted. I can, balance myself. So be prepared for that as well. Yeah, but I feel like we are in a totally safe space today because we are all amazing artists from Nepal doing the best. And again, like I said, it's an honor to have you all here. And it's an honor to be here present in front of you today. So without wasting too much of the time, I would like to welcome our chief guest, Mr. Dinesh D.C. And please, a round of applause for him. So he's the chairman of Film Development Board, a veteran actor and a director. And the little time I've had the chance to spend with him, we were in a program together last time. And I must tell you, he is the coolest person ever. I'm not buttering him up or anything. I'm literally saying he's so cool, and his vision for the industry and the mission that he has is so great. And I feel like if there were more people like him in the government, I think our country would be so much farther. So that's why it's an honor to have him here. And that's why we really insisted to do this program at Film Development Board, because animation and film, animation is a medium of film. That's why we could go hand in hand together, right? That's why it's so important that he's here today. Again, please give a round of applause for Dinesh D.C. And of course, we all know why we're here, right? So I would like to welcome Jeremy Vickery, the former lighting director of Pixar. So as you can see, he has been responsible for amazing projects that you can see. Amazing projects, animated projects that literally shaped our childhood. Am I right? Because see, watching these movies is why I wanted to be an animator. I wanted to do something in animation. I wanted to tell stories like this that will blow our mind, that will just take us to a completely different world. So it is an absolute honor that he is here in front of us in person. And that's why we figured that it would be very important for us all to get together in this auspicious occasion. And he's also, so like I said, he's responsible for amazing movies like The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Cars, Brave, WALL-E, Inside Out. And most of you probably don't know, but he's also responsible for amazing titles like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Have you guys played Assassin's Creed? It is my favorite game of all time, of the whole franchise. And he worked on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Uncharted, Lost Legacy, and Days Gone. You guys know the game, right? Yeah, and he's also responsible for, he does person production, and he worked on titles like Westworld. Yeah. And the recent Fallout series. Have you guys watched it? Yeah. See, it's so legendary. He's so legendary. So, Jeremy, welcome. Let's give a huge round of applause for him, please. Okay, that's it. So I would like to request our volunteer to welcome and honor our guest with Khada and Nepali topi. That's something we do, I would like to take a moment to thank Film Development Board Nepal for giving us this wonderful venue. This looks so badass, we would have just hosted this program anywhere on the ground, but having it here just, takes it to a whole different level. So thank you, Dinesh D.C and Film Development Board for the venue and for logistical support in this program. I would also like to thank Ace Media. I believe they're on the way. We'll do this again, but again, thanks to Ace Media, Ramesh Puriji and Vogue at an event for technical support for the LED, giant LED, like it looks like a tech talk and like a very, very cool tech event just because of these things, I'm so excited for this. So I'd like to again thank them. And again, thanks to my wonderful friends, co-organizers from AVAAN. We'll get to AVAAN later, basically. But so I'd like to again thank my team for going through a lot of ups and downs and finally organizing this event and making this happen. So a huge round of applause for everybody. Since we are here today to celebrate animation, I'd just like to talk a few words about it. So again, it's my favorite genre, it's my favorite medium of storytelling. And animation, so it turns out, I was doing research for this, and turns out, as of 2024, the global value of, market value of animation industry is over $450 billion. That is crazy. Like, that's like 60 trillion rupees. Like, basically. That's like, just to put that in perspective. So, animation market industry is $450 billion. The total budget of Nepal is $13 billion. So, that's how big the industry is globally, right? And the world is moving forward in such a fast pace, and it's just amazing. It's turning out to be an amazing medium of storytelling. And it's been recognized as a proper genre, and people are pushing animation movies, and people are enjoying it, and audiences are loving it. So it's just so crazy to see that the world growing towards it, and us being animators and being people involved in animation, VFX, and all this technical stuff. I feel like it's an honor, and I feel like we are very lucky. Because see, basically you do it in a computer. You can do like amazing work sitting in any corner of the world, right? So it may not be possible for people like us to create like Mission Impossible kind of a movie from Nepal. But then I promise you, it's possible for us to create at least close to Kung Fu Panda or like, stuff like that being staying here in Nepal. So that is possible, and I am so amazed by the fact that we are in this industry. So I feel like, as the world is moving forward, us Nepali people, Nepali animators together, we can definitely make some change. We can make a dent in the animation universe of the world. So that's why it's so important that we are all here together. And I also want to talk about two movies in particular. So the first one is called Nezha 2. Do you guys know about it? Right? So this movie came from China. So it's a sequel of an existing IP, but still. The second part of Nezha is basically went on to be the highest grossing movie of all time. It did surpass Avatar and Avengers and all the movies all together. It went to make $3 billion and more, and still counting. So I heard they're also planning to release it in Nepal, so we'll all have to go and watch it. And so, say that, yes, there are people who love animation movies in Nepal, and you guys can make money if you release animated movies in Nepal, and you guys can make even more money if you make animated movies in Nepal. So that's why we have to support it, right? True. And the other film I want to talk about is called Flow. Do you guys know about it? It's a little movie called Flow, right? So it was made by a young group of animators, filmmakers in a country called Latvia. To be honest, my geopolitics is very bad. Geography is so bad. I didn't know about Latvia before this film. I have to be honest. But then, learning about the country, and so basically they didn't have a lot of huge movie industry, but this particular animated movie made by a young bunch of people with co-production from other countries, they had help, but still, they did it in a very minuscule budget, and they used the free software Blender. Let's give a round of applause for Blender, please. Yep. So yeah, they use existing technology, and they use very little budget, and the team they worked on the movie was like half the size of the audience here. I think even less than that. So, but then this little movie went on to win all kinds of crazy awards. It went on to win the Academy Awards, the Oscars for Best Animated Feature Movie this year. right? So it surpassed like all the studios, big IPs, and whatnot. So what I learned from this movie in particular is that, if you have a great story to tell, and animation is such a powerful medium that you can amaze people all over the world. They won't care about the quality, they won't care about the output, they'll just fall in love with it. And I believe all of us together, we have that potential, we have that crazy ideas within all of us. And that's why, again, it's very important for us to get together and to, basically get together like this. So again, round of applause for Flo and Nezaki and all the animation movie and all crazy artists like us who are giving their blood, sweat, and all the time in the world to make these kind of movies. However, so Nepal, Nepal as a country, I feel like we have a long way to go. When you look back at the history of animation in Nepal, there hasn't been a lot of I can barely think of any IP created for animation from Nepal. I mean, there are amazing studios, amazing people, talented people that have been working, for big outsourced projects of Hollywood and whatnot. But I mean, that's really great. I mean, we have to, participate. We have to make money. We have to, sort of have networks and all that. But then it breaks my heart to say that that resources, those kind of energy have not been invested to create proprietary content for Nepal, from Nepal, and by Nepali people. So that's why I feel, again, it's important for us all to get together. And I feel like, when you look back, can you guys name some of animated content that you really love that was released in Nepal?
See, movie.
Moomin, okay. Anything else? What?
Without.
Okay, we'll get to that. So Moomin was a huge part of our childhood. But then it's a 2D animated series that was made in Finland and distributed by Japan, I believe, all over the world. So it was a joint, task of importing by some amazing people in Nepal, but it was also helped by the Finnish government. So, but then they dubbed it in Nepali, and we all thought it was made in Nepal, and we were amazed by it, And growing up, realizing that it was not made in Nepal, that again really broke my heart. It's so sad. Again, there are other IPs like Meena Cartoon, right? You guys remember Meena Cartoon, right? I mean, we learned to wash our hands with soap by watching Meena Cartoon, right? I mean, it was a PSA basically, but again, it was produced for the whole region of South Asia. It was not produced for Nepal or by Nepal. I mean, I think there were some episodes, if I'm not wrong, that were done in Nepal, but then again, so we cannot really take ownership of that as well. So, but then if you look back, there is this one animated content, I talk about this in the podcast, and it also got kind of viral, that the only thing that we can truly say ours is Paunko Khasi. So the context is that it is a PSA, beautiful PSA done by amazing artists in Nepal for UNICEF or one of those organizations. But then what happened is a bunch of guys, young guys, they got together and they redubbed it, and they used all kinds of foul language and made it so stupid and so funny. I mean, it was before the era of internet, but everybody had it. It was viral before the internet. And that again, but that was made in Nepal, was made by a Nepali artist, and that I'm still proud of it. Again, but round of applause for Paunko Khasi. So, we have a long way to go. But then, like I said, there have been pockets of studios, pockets of freelancers working in Nepal for amazing IPs and contents for all over the world, right? So I believe it's about time that we get together and we create something original, we create something that will inspire the next generation, that will speak out loud, that you don't have to go abroad just to labor, just to earn minimum wages. You can stay back here. You can spend time with the family. You can eat the food you like, and work your hours and still make content that will amaze the whole world. So that's why it is important for us to get together. And in that context, that is why a group of friends of ours, we decided to get together and form an alliance. Okay, so it's called Animation and VFX Artists Association of Nepal. So it's an association, it's a legit song. Like you have nice song for barbers, like Kucho song for people who clean the streets and whatever, So every profession, we figure they grow together once they form an association that gets help from the government, that can, speak out loud for the people working in the same industry. So that's why we felt it's important to form this alliance, and that is why we take this day today in a very special occasions in front of amazing guests to announce the formation and in a way to make a formal inauguration of Animation and VFX Artists Association of Nepal. So can we get a round of applause for that, please? So, to talk a little bit more about this association, AVAAN, and to welcome our guests and attendees formally, I would like to invite the president of AVAAN, Mr. Vikram Manandar, who is also the managing director of Dreams Animation Academy and Studio. Let's welcome him on stage. We can invite.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Amin. There are moments in the history when the dreams take its first step into reality. Today is one of those moments. Respected chief guest, Mr. Dinesh D.C, our honored international guest, Mr. Jeremy Vickery, distinguished guest, dear AVAAN members, AVAAN founders, executive team, and all friends, the creative communities. Namaste and heartfelt welcome to all of you. Today marks a truly historic day for all of us. As the president of AVAAN, the Animation and VFX Artists Association of Nepal, it is my great honor to stand before you at the official inauguration of AVAAN. AVAAN began as a shared dream of vision to unite the incredibly talented and hardworking animation and VFX artists of Nepal under one platform, a place where creativity meets collaboration and where our voices are amplified nationally and globally. Our goal is to promote the Nepali animation and VFX industry to support artists with resources, recognition, and opportunities, and to make Nepal a rising hub of digital storytelling in the world. On this special occasion, I'm honored to greet and welcome our chief guest, a true pillar of Nepali cinema, Mr. Dinesh D.C, Chairperson of the Film Development Board and a veteran actor and a director. Your presence here strengthening our journey and vision. I'm also here to extend a warm welcome to our honored international guest, a world-renowned legendary lighting director and a cinematographer who has worked on iconic films and projects, Mr. Jeremy Vickery. All the way from the US to Nepal, he is a former lighting director of Pixar, having contributed to beloved films like Cars, Ratatouille, The Incredibles, Brave, Inside Out, Wall-E, and many more. Thank you, Mr. Vickery, for being here with us and inspiring our artists with your journey and expertise. Your presence at this moment, Pixar to Pixars, beginning with Jeremy Vickery, supported by the Film Development Board Nepal, is a proud moment for our entire creative community. From this program, we officially announce AVAAN as a recognized body committed to the growth of the animation and VFX sector in Nepal. I would like to thank each AVAAN founders, our dedicated executive team, and our presenter today, our General Secretary, Mr. Anil Neopane, for his continued support and contribution to Nepal's travel and cinema. Yes, build a community that dreams, creates, connects, and leads. With that, I welcome you all once again and announce the official inauguration of AVAAN. For the artists, by the artists. Thank you, Anil, Jai AVAAN, Jai Nepal.
So, I met Vikram Dai a long time ago, and ever since we have been working together in the small to big all projects, and I love the enthusiasm and the sheer passion that he brings to every project and to the animation industry altogether. And every time we would get together for work or just casual cup of tea or anything, we would always sort of go on a frustration rant that why isn't more happening in the country. You know, how can we do more? How can we contribute so that, you know, artists like us will be inspired for tomorrow, and, you know, people won't feel the need to go abroad and whatnot, and animation needs to be recognized, and we have so much potential and all that, you know. But then it was his vision, his and his team's vision, that we felt like we needed to support. And we got together and we said that, okay, if you want to do this, let's do this formally, and there's a saying that each drop will accumulate to be an ocean. So that's why we're very small drops as of now, but I feel like, you know, the big ocean, a big wave is coming, and you guys are all going to be a part of it. So that's why, again, let's give a round of applause for Mr. President of AVAAN, Vikram Mahinder. So, like I said, it's very important for us all to get out and get together and, you know, share a voice, and more importantly, share a vision. So to talk about the vision and mission, the roadmap and whatnot of AVAAN, I would like to invite Vice President of AVAAN, Mr. Manish Deola, who is also the CEO of Dreams Animation Academy and Studio. Please welcome him on stage. Before his presentation, we would like to share a small glimpse of demo reel, a show reel that is comprised of most artists already involved in AVAAN. As we grow the family more, I believe the work of art is going to speak for itself even louder and even in higher quality. So let's watch the reel for now.
Thank you so much. Namaste. Namaste and very warm welcome to everyone presented here today. So I'm Manish Deola, Vice President of AVAAN, and it was a really honor to be here and to share my experiences or share our AVAAN experiences that we brought up here. And AVAAN is a specifically alliance that we have discussed a few months ago with our team members. And for AVAAN roadmap, we have designed many of the back and forth conversation with our founding members. So how AVAAN is going to work, and how is the AVAAN functions that we're gonna share here. So first of all, this words makes me very emotional. If you can dream it, you can do it. It's not just a word, it's a mindset. So every artist, every storyteller has to go from this. So first of all, I would like to share the vision and mission of this AVAAN. So why the AVAAN is here. So AVAAN is to offer the artists that to recognize in the global platform. So everyone, there is the few artists that I know that they are recognizing in the global platform by their works. So AVAAN will help us and create a gap in this sector. So overall, our AVAAN is in the 4 different stages and time and planning we have planned. Like in 2025, we have being a foundation,
And in 2025, we are in the development phase, and in the 2026 growth phase, and in 2027 is with a maturity phase. So we have designed in the several work like foundation. We have done the establishment and legalization, organizers setup we have done, and communication analysis like we are bringing like this. And this is our very first and grand event for AVAAN and is honored. So development phase. So we will do the education and training from AVAAN also, and networking and collaboration events, and there's education and industry standards.
Tired.
And in the growth phase, so I have already told that advancing industry development in Nepali context, we need to advance the technology of animation industry and expanding to influence and sustainability and impact. Okay, and in maturity phase, so all done. So in 4 years, we have planned like this in step by step of the AVAAN organization. So overall roadmap, I was first like this, that we will do workshop and seminars, certification programs, as we will build a code of conduct collaborations. So many things we have to do from the AVAAN. So all of this is possible with all of you, the artists, by joining us. So these are the few, and AVAAN now we have set up in the just Kathmandu city, and then later on we will plan from every district, every province, and in future we will develop in the international chapters that artists who are living abroad, our Nepali artists. So overall, why AVAAN? AVAAN is for the bridging the gap and the communication and collaboration and global representation and industry development. So AVAAN, I would like to request all of you, the artists, to join AVAAN. So to create a history and to develop the animation industry in more bigger way. So you can be a member by filling out form in membership form, and you can do the volunteers also and participate in this kind of program also. So overall, thank you so much. This is my short roadmap. Together, let's build a Nepal creative future. Be a part of it. Be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Banastai. So, like I said, and like he emphasized, it's very important for us all to get together and to create a unified voice that can be heard all over the world, because we have that potential. We have it in all of us, each of us. So when we again get together, I think the voice is just going to be that much louder. It's just going to be that much easier for everyone. And there are many reasons why we decided to start AVAAN, just to make sure that, there's good pay for the artists, for the studios that are running in Nepal, and that we are able to create every quality output, and we are able to bring big collaborations. We are able to invite guests from all over the world, like Jeremy has been here today. So events like this are just a small start of what we can achieve as an association together. So that's why, again, I would also re-emphasize all of the artists here to be a part of it. Bring in your voice, bring in your suggestions, bring in your ideas, and let's try and make it happen. Because let's just go beyond the computer that we love, and let's join hands and make the community bigger. Am I right? Right. Okay. So the next part of the program, what we're gonna do is I'll explain the drill at first, and then we'll execute it. So I will invite the founding members of AVAAN one after another, and then I would also request our guests, Jeremy and Dinesh D.C, sir, to be on stage to light a sukunda. I don't know what it's called in English. It's a really nice sukunda, right? Why not? So to light it, it's a symbol of inauguration, and just that light, that spark of light is what's going to guide us. And being a lighting director, it's an honor that Jeremy is going to light the way for AVAAN for the future. So that's going to happen now. So let's just play some music, background music for a while our volunteers get the candles, the sukandas ready for the event. Is it in the middle? Is it in the center? Composition is right, guys? Fix it? Okay. All right, perfect. I was sticking for this. Okay, so I'm going to invite my fellow organizers and founding members of AVAAN one by one. We have written down a very short bio for each of them. So first and foremost, I would like to invite Mr. Bikram Mananda. He has been working in the 3D industry for more than 16 years as a 3D artist and faculty and founder of Greens Animation. I would like to invite Raj Pradhan. He has been working in the 3D industry for more than 16 years again as an animation director and faculty, also a co-founder and my partner at QI Studios. I would like to invite Prakash Shrestha. He has been working in the 3D industry for more than 16 years again. Should you guys all get together 16 years ago? When there was nothing happening basically. 16 years as a 3D CG artist, faculty, project supervisor, founder of Imagine Animation Studio, currently animation lecturer in Kathmandu University. Ciao. I would like to invite Suchan Raj Bhattacharya and Sachina Shakya. We have a dynamic duo, Suchan Raj Bhattacharya and Sachina Shakya from Puppeteer Lounge. As the founders of Puppeteer Lounge, they bring over 18 years. Oh my God. I'm amazed. You guys don't look that old. It's crazy. Over 18 years of experience in the animation industry, having worked and trained on a diverse range of animation projects. For more than 13 years, Puppeteer Lounge has been a pioneer in teaching character rigging and animation. They're one of the best riggers in the country. And if they were to rank, I'm sure they'll be on the top list of the world as well, trust me. That's not all. So rigging, and they've been teaching to artists and studios around the globe, so they also have mentorship programs. Sachin and Suchan are also creative mind behind the beloved and popular Nepali cartoon called Nani and Babu. Please round of applause for Nani and Babu. They have been saving animation industry and they have been nurturing the young kids of Nepal by creating amazing contents on YouTube. They give it for free for the kids, and people all over the world are sort of grooming their children by showing them Nani and Babu. So thank you for that. That's amazing. I would like to invite Juvain, who is a 3D generalist of 15 years again. He has worked on a variety of projects from commercials to movies. He also teaches Houdini, so if you guys want to learn Houdini, he's the man, and he is the founder of Electric FX. Round of applause for Juvain, please. And we have Rabin Silpakar. He is the co-founder at R-Cube Games and Animation and has been crafting digital magic as a technical animator, blending code creativity across CGI animation, game development, and virtual reality, VR and AR. Crazy stuff, guys. They're building the future, literally. I have a section for myself. I'm just going to skip it.
I couldn't see.
And we have Manish Deola. So Manish is the CEO of James Animation Academy and Studios with 12 plus years of experience in animation, combined creative union with strong building and techno management skills, specializing in leading the team, optimizing workflow, and delivering cutting-edge visual solutions. So he's the guy who makes the presentation, and we all rely on him at AVAAN to do this kind of stuff. So again, use a round of applause for Manish, please. And we have Nayan Shrestha. He has been working on the 3D industry for more than 15 years. And as a lighting supervisor and art director, he's also co-founder and my partner at QI Studios.
Yes,
and last but not least, we have Pranam Shakya. She is the managing director and executive producer of Jazz Productions. She also leads the production design team at Jazz and has produced numerous projects that heavily rely on VFX and CGI. I'm so sorry, guys. I relied on this so much. I missed a very dear colleague and friend of ours. I would like to invite Miss Rina Dozu, who has been a project supervisor at Dreams Animation Studios. Again, she's the heart and soul of AVAAN. We would be literally crippled without her, so please give a round of applause for Rina. Again, my apologies. So, along with these amazing people, I am Anil Nopane, again running Jazz Productions and QI Studios. And basically my job is to hype these guys up to do great things. So this is AVAAN. Everyone, let's bow for the audience, please. Okay, so I would like to invite Mr. Dinesh D.C and Jeremy Vickery on stage to light the Sukunda and to formally inaugurate AVAAN for great future ahead.
hold that? Let's do it together. Let me squeeze it. Yes.
Alright, so the next segment, I'm going to be the time and culture. Can we take it? Because this segment is very, very, very close to my heart. And it's also the reason Jeremy is here. And it's an absolute honor to be sharing this in front of you all. So this is basically the first time we are bringing it out to the world, and some glimpse of it at least as we develop. We'll share the progress in the community, of course. But we just thought it would be an amazing honor and excuse just to show this a little bit to you guys. So this this is a feature film project that's going to be produced by Jazz Productions and QI Studios. It's going to be my first feature movie. And so I chose my first feature movie to tell the story by using the medium of 3D animation. So I'm really hyped, I'm really excited, I'm nervous, and I might melt in the stage right now. So the project is called Simi and the Kya. So it's a very special and unique project because this film starts in a live-action world and then it sort of transitions into a 2D animated world. So that particular USP is what we are really excited about. And then it's a fun family movie. It's an adventure, and it relies, we have drawn inspiration from our art, culture, tradition quite a lot. But we also try to make it very contemporary, not too boring or anything as such. So we've taken inspiration from great movies and artwork and literature from all over the world, especially Pixar movies to be specific. So we're really excited for people to see high quality animated movie where the characters speak in Nepali, where the world is very familiar to Nepal. And also it's going to tell a very important story about this modern world and why it's very important to take care of our children. So I would also like to take a moment to give a shout out to Ayush and Yosana, who are the screenwriters for the project. They're here as well. I'm sure you guys know them. They're leading the stand-up comedy scene in Nepal, and it's an honor to have them as screenwriters in this project, and they're doing a fantastic job, guys. Trust me. And also, I would like to thank my team at QI Studios. Everyone is here. They've been putting their heart and soul and everything and blood even to make this happen. And it's not been an easy road. But again, if you want to be pioneer, if you want to explore the space where no one has gone before, you have to sort of, go the hard way, right? So that's why we are going the hard way. And so I would like to share a very short glimpse, very, it's not even a teaser, just a very tiny glimpse of the world for you guys from Simi and the Kya.
Kya, हामी अझलाई गुरुमापाबाट छुटाउन सक्छौँ नि है?
छुट्याउनु त गाह्रो नहोला तर ऊ चाहिँ स्योर एकाडेस गरेर फर्किन मान्दैन होला
फर्किन त मलाई पनि मन छैन मलाई त एकादेश नै रमाइलो लागिरहेछ
Oh my God. So thank you guys, thank you. I know it's not the best, but it's just a promise of what we are capable of doing and of achieving. And of course, in coming days, we'll need the community to get together to make this happen so that, we can present something amazing for the whole world to see. We can represent Nepal with this kind of work. So thank you again. So, very interesting story. So Nayan, my partner and my friend at QI Studios, so he he learned lighting by watching Jeremy's tutorials, basically. From like a long time ago, and I'm so amazed because he's one of the best lighters in the industry in Nepal right now. So I'm so proud to be working with him. It's because of him and the team, amazing team that he leads. Our animated contents, they look so amazing, the render quality, even though we don't have a lot of computers, even though we don't have a lot of resources, we're able to achieve this kind of quality because I'm, again, proud to be working with because of Nayan, and I'm proud to be working with them. So, again, Nayan was bold enough, was brave enough to reach out to Jeremy and to email him saying that we're working on this very special project in Nepal. It's not a lot, but it might go up to be like something extraordinary. So it would be great if you could guide us, if you could help us on this project. And Jeremy is like, really? Of course. Of course, why not? And that, guys, is going to change the shape and change the future, change the course of this project. And that is why Jeremy's had, not just that, he agreed to consult on our project throughout the production, in the concept art, from the concept art to lighting and render. So not just that, but he was very kind enough to say that, okay, I'm just gonna hop on a plane and be there to see you guys in person and to meet you and to, to guide you to the process, at least in the beginning, in person. So that's why he's here, guys. Again, thank you, Jeremy. It's very kind of you. I find myself pinching, am I dreaming? Is this really happening? Do we really have somebody who has worked in Pixar and in movies that have literally, like I said, shaped our childhood, really helping us out in this project? Oh my God, this is really happening. So, again, so that is why I felt the need to sort of host this today, because I wanted to express all this in front of you guys. So again, so I would like to talk a few things about Jeremy. So he's the lighting director, concept artist, art director, and has worked as director of photography at Pixar, Ubisoft, Naughty Dog, and more. I forgot the rest of the names, but sorry, it's a pet me. And he also leads virtual. He has also led virtual production team and has worked on titles like Westworld and Fallout TV series. But then we all know and follow him as the lighting mentor. You guys know lighting mentor, right? Yes. If you don't, you have to go back and check it out. It will change your world. It will change your worldview. It will change the way you work. So it's really important. And he has, we know him as lighting mentor, where he has helped numerous artists around the world with his amazing tutorials, courses, and he also has amazing apprenticeship programs where he sort of takes you through a whole real projects. He does simulations of real world projects and how a concept artist and artists like us can actually contribute to big studios and small studios, and how we can sort of make sure the best version of us is present. It's possible. So and he also teaches. He has programs on lighting, color study, concept art design. I might have missed a lot of things, but Jeremy will be here to share more on that. But before that, I would like to take a moment to thank Mr. Ramesh Puri and Neetu Singh for helping us out in this project from Ace Media. Thank you so much. And welcome to the program. Without wasting much of the time, I would like to welcome you to the crux of this program. So to hear Jeremy talk about his journey, so I would like to welcome Jeremy on the stage.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. I am very excited to be here in Nepal. This is amazing. This is my second time to Nepal. The first time I came was before many of you were born. I'm older than you look. I have 28 years of experience. The last time I was in Nepal was in 1994. So Kathmandu has grown quite a bit since that time. Excuse me if I cough. I have a little cold from traveling all over Kathmandu and into villages while I was here. So we've been here a week and a half. I'd like to introduce my son, Cedar, as well. He's also a filmmaker. He studied screenwriting at New York Film Academy and now works with me. He writes screenplays. He also does a lot of video editing. And we have been making films since he was about 3 years old. So this is something where he was raised playing on the fields at Pixar as a child. So it's an honor for both of us to come here. So what I'm going to talk about today, the plan is we have, how much time do we have for presentation? Yeah, like 45 minutes or so, something like that. And then we'll have time for questions and answers and have a conversation. I find that it's really important for me as an artist with our community to be open. It's not about ego. It's not about pride of, oh, I worked on this great thing and worship me for this. It's kind of odd for me to come to an event like this and everyone say, wow, you worked on these things, and it's just people. We're just people telling stories. I personally feel that right now in the world, with all of the crazy things that are happening, it's even more important for us to have a voice and to tell our stories. That this is like the most noble of careers that we could do. You could be building bridges, you could be doing, you could be a doctor and help people, and those are noble careers. But what does it mean to be human? I think what makes us different from other animals is communication. It's that we can share our stories with the future generations. That's what makes humans distinct. And storytelling is our best way to share this information. So what is it like to have a life as an artist? I know many of you here are already professional artists, and some of you are still pursuing a career. So I want to tell my story because though I've worked on a lot of big films and games and TV shows, and I've worked with a lot of different brands and game studios, just many, many different things. I've had a very fortunate career. I started the same as many of you. I lived in a small town in a little mountain community that had no artists. I didn't know any professional artists. There was no professional artists in my area. And this was back in, I think this picture was taken in like 1978, so a long time ago. And I, as a child, loved to draw ever since I think this was when I was 4. Then I made a whole book. And I drew books of monsters and creatures and fantasy things. And my teachers always told me, stop drawing on everything. But now when I look back on it, I think that was the best thing I ever did for my career, was drawing and doodling all the time. As I grew kind of by myself, by the time I was in high school, I started to draw a little bit more advanced drawings. And I started to question, what do I want to do with my life? It was something in the arts. I did sculpture as well. My stepfather was a chainsaw sculptor. So some of these were made out of wood using chainsaws, very dangerous. But this was my background. And I also love science, and I love technology, and I love music. I'm a musician, and I loved acting, and I couldn't figure out what to do. And all of these things, not any one of those things seemed to be a fit. So I took 2 years off after high school and before university, and I traveled around the world. That's when I came to Nepal. And again, I've been such a fortunate life to be able to have all this opportunity. When I came back, I found that there was a school that was teaching animation. Animation is the combination of acting, technology, science, storytelling, and music. Like animation, this is what I want to do. So I started university in 1995, and within the first couple of months, a small film came out, and I remember like crying in the movie theater going, I want to do that. That's so cool. And I thought, I have the great demo reel. I was the valedictorian of my class. It was amazing. And I sent my VHS copy of my demo reel to Pixar, and I got rejected. And I still have the postcard that they would send in the mail saying, thank you very much for your application. Your skills do not fit our needs at this time. And I still hold this to remind me. I applied to Pixar 6 times before I finally got hired. So after graduating, this is the type of work that I did, which according to modern standards, this is pretty terrible work. But this was in the year 1996. So I'll give myself a little bit of grace back then. The software to run some of these things costs $100,000, and the computers cost another $100,000. So only if you had the right connections of people at that time. But I did manage to get a job at a little company that worked on children's television. So we made this television show with dancing vegetables. It's a very simple type show. I worked there for 3 years and applied to Pixar again and got rejected again. But I wanted to grow, so I kept doing concept art. So I was a 3D modeler and was texture artist and rigger, and so we did kind of everything. It was a small team of just 25 people. While I was there, it grew to 350 people, and we did our first feature film with these vegetables. And then I went and got hired at another studio that had a bigger imaginative project. So it was a small team of 15 people, and we made a film that you should never watch. It's a horrible film, but I learned so much. So it was a fantasy film. And again, this was using the beta version of Maya. So if you've used Maya, this is in the year 2000. And this is using Maya software linger. So there was no ray tracing. There was no global illumination. Everything had to be done manually. If any of you know about 3D software, when we were doing UV maps for the textures, they had to be done one vertice at a time. There was no smoothing. There was no auto tools. Even at this time, there wasn't cell phones, there was no YouTube. It was a simpler time, but we still made this film. And from here, this is where I learned a love of lighting, because I had grown up doing painting and I had grown up doing drawing. And then as a 3D modeler, I would need to get my scenes approved. And so in order to get them approved, I'd have to light them. And then lighting is the magic connection that pulls all of these things together and makes it feel believable. So it makes it go from looking like some sort of weird computer thing to making it feel like a believable world. And then I applied to Pixar again, and I was in a meeting much like this. There was a Maya user group meeting, and I did have a cell phone at that point, and I forgot to turn the ringer off. And my cell phone rang, and I disturbed the whole room, and I had to run out. I was looking at the number. Where is that from? I'm like, that's Pixar. And they called me, and they said, could you fly out tomorrow? This is on a Thursday. Could you fly out tomorrow? And they gave me the weekend to explore San Francisco. The interview was intense. It was 8 hours long with 8 groups of 8 people each. So 64 people interviewed me, and it had to be unanimous. And I flew back the next day, and they offered me a job and said, you have to sell your house and move across the country in 2 weeks. They need you for The Incredibles. And they said, okay. So this was my first real feature film. It was my 3rd feature film, but the first one that I'm really proud of. And I worked on a lot of sequences as a shot lighting artist. So I won't go into too many details of the different types of art, but this is where I really started to learn about visual storytelling and about what cinematography is. It's not about the tools and the buttons. It's about telling a story. And this director is my favorite director, Brad Bird. And I consider him a mentor. He taught me so much of not just what buttons to press, but why. Why do we want to draw attention to certain items in the frame? So I worked on a short film for the DVD called Jack Jack Attack. And that was really fun. And then went on to work on cars. Oh, these are some of the shots that I worked on. I got to do a little bit more responsibility on cars. And then I started on Ratatouille. And at this point, I got to a lead position. So they would give us scenes. This is what it looks like before lighting. So this is what we call a sweatbox render, which is a really strange word. But everything is animated, and we design the lighting. So I started to do what we call color keys. And these are paintings to design what the shot will look like. So to see the difference of the focal point between this and this, you can tell where to look. And so as I worked on shots from the film, they gave me more responsibility to be able to take entire sequences, and I could paint my own color keys to plan the sequences. I worked on a lot of shots. This is probably my favorite project that I've ever worked on, because I was just senior enough to have a lot of creativity, but not senior enough to have to worry about money or budgets or people. It's a really nice place to be. So I would take scenes like this, and I got to paint my own color keys, and then I got to light those scenes. And it just gave me kind of creative authority on this huge, big film. It was super fun. And I worked on WALL-E as well. I only worked on the sequence on Earth. At which point, my son Cedar was about 5 years old, and I was living 3,000 miles, which is how many in the kilometers? It's like, 8,000 kilometers or something, 6,000 kilometers away from all of our family. So I moved back from California to Florida, and I became a freelance artist. So at this point, I had worked on big animation projects, and then I started doing work. So I worked with Lego. So I traveled to Denmark several times, and I helped them with their computer rendering to switch from photography into 3D renders. So we had things like this that they didn't look like photography, so we upgraded so that it will look more real. This was a big deal in 2007. Now it's pretty easy. Our software can do this easy now. But I also did some illustration for them. So they have a worldwide magazine that goes out. So I got to paint the cover for that. And that was really fun. So I got a lot more experience. I worked with a lot of other clients as well. A lot of different game studios. I did projects like this is for a grocery store chain selling dairy products. It was all kind of vegetable based. I worked on some different animation series. and did illustrations for their concept design for their worlds. I worked on different game projects. This was for the Smurfs, for Sony. I did a lot of training at that time, and I think this is the training that Nyan took way back on like 2008, 2009, a long time ago. So you can see a lot of work. But after doing that for 3 years, I'm like, I miss working with other people. I'm a social person and love interacting with other artists, and I love growing. So I moved back to California, and my son was old enough that we're like, yeah, being close to family was nice, but we also liked living on the West Coast. So we moved back and we worked on Brave. This was really fun. We got to do a lot on Brave. And then I was the master lighting lead on the Blue Umbrella. This was brand new technology for us. So it was the first time that Pixar had ever used global illumination. So if you don't know what that is, you can look it up, but it is a different type of lighting technology that is way more accurate. It's kind of a world standard now, but it was brand new at that time. And so I got to kind of lead that project with a small team. And then finally, I got to work on a Toy Story project. So it was for television. For all those years, about 18 years at that point, I'm like, all right, now I know I've achieved something because I have Woody and Buzz and I'm lighting them, and it's really fun. Heck. Then I worked a little bit on Inside Out as well. And then I decided I needed to get out of the city. I had this struggle. I can do what I want, but live in a place that's really crowded and expensive, or I can live what I want, but not get to do everything that I want, like my job, or where do I live? And it's always back and forth. So I decided to take a year off. And again, I'm very fortunate, and I moved to a small mountain town. Back and forth. So I decided to take a year off. And again, I'm very fortunate, and I moved to a small mountain town. Excuse me. And this town looks very similar to Nepal. So this is kind of the views in that area. I lived here for a year. I did a lot of painting and a lot of filmmaking and photography, and I did illustrations like this. Just kind of learned and branched out of technology and a little bit more into pre-production and concept design. Just tried to challenge myself and learn more approaches to doing lots of different styles of illustration and concept design during that year. Explored more into color studies, which is planning of lighting for future films. And at the end of this year off, I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't want to move back to California. It's too expensive there. I want to do something different. And so I ended up getting hired at Ubisoft. So I moved to Canada. So we've done a lot of moving. We've moved so many different times. So we moved to Quebec, Canada, that only speaks French. So we had to quickly try to learn French, which did not go well. But we worked there. They worked on Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So I was... I'm the art director there. So there was 3 art directors. So I was an assistant art director. So I worked with the team. I was responsible for the world and the lighting and all the cinematics. And then one of the others was over the characters, and one of the others was over the gameplay. So the 3 of us, we did a lot of concept design. We got to travel to Greece and research Greek history and architecture, and got to climb up into the mountains. I wanted to prove that there is snow in Greece. It's not just beautiful beaches. So this is Sparta. I'm like, oh, there's Sparta, like the real Sparta. This is way up in the mountains, and it's really fun. I'm a big fan of mountains. So when I got you talking with Nyan, like, come to Nepal, I'm like, yes, great mountains, the best mountains. So at the end of that project, I moved back to the United States, and I got hired at Naughty Dog. I worked on Uncharted Lost Legacy that also has a very Asian context to it. So I was a lighting artist responsible for about a third of the game. And Naughty Dog is a very interesting studio that there's almost no direction. You just say, just make it pretty. And if we tell you it's bad, then you know that otherwise it's approved. So just make it pretty. So, you know, I had a lot of Hindu temples and a lot of kind of Asian design through this project. At the end of this, I worked for Beta Studio, also a Sony studio, where I worked on the game Days Gone. And so I was responsible. We had a small team. So we went from like, at Pixar, it was 1,200 people, and the lighting team was about 50 people. Versus at Days Gone, we only had 3 lighting artists. It was a very small team. And we had to light the open world as well as the full 6 hours of cinematics, and we had 1 year to do it. So lighting 6 hours of cinema was a really great experience, also really challenging. At the end of that 5 years in games, I realized I love film. Film is my thing. Film and animation is what I love the most. So I went back to film, and I was going to move to the UK. I was going to move to Scotland, and that would be exciting. And then the pandemic happened. So I ended up living in the United States and working UK hours. So my hours were 1 a.m. until 10 a.m. So that was kind of brutal. But I worked on a movie for Netflix, and I was the lighting director, the director of photography for the project. And so we designed the entire lighting of the film. These are some of the frames of what the film looked like. It was a very fun project. Unfortunately, Access Animation went bankrupt a year later and isn't anymore, doesn't exist anymore, which is really sad. So it's very important as a community to help each other and also to have really good business, the way things are done, to make sure everyone is being treated fairly so that animation can continue to exist. But I'm very thankful for the opportunity. At the end of that, I had a really unique opportunity. A company reached out to me called Magnopus, and almost no one has ever heard of Magnopus, even in the industry, but they helped create the technology for The Mandalorian. They worked on the Lion King reboot, and they did virtual production. So when I got there, the first project that I worked on was Westworld. And so this was season 4 of Westworld for HBO. And I was working directly next to Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother. And so what we were doing was we were designing Times Square, New York City set in the future. So it had to be done in virtual production because they couldn't shoot in New York City. They just can't shut down a major city and shoot there. And they wanted some things to be changed. So they explored what the lighting could be. And then here is us on set in a large LED volume. So this is a screen exactly like this, just a lot bigger. Like it's as big as this whole room. And the whole thing seals to the ceiling and everything. And these were what the shots looked like. So our small team, we had 8 artists along. Was it what time of day do you want? Do you want it to be daylight? Do you want it to be kind of like sunset? Do you want it to be full nighttime or a blue hour? And they said yes. And then days. So we had to relight the scene. So this is what it looks like in the show. Virtual production is interesting. For those who don't know about it, it's not just a video wall behind you. We use a game engine. So there's a little tracker on the camera. So when the camera moves, the entire screen also moves with the camera, so it gives you the feeling of seeing into a 3D world. It was very powerful, made it really work well. And at the end of that project, they enjoyed working with us so much, they said, okay, let's give you a real project. Westworld was just a small one, but Fallout is our new series. And so I spent an entire year working on Fallout. And they planned multiple sequences for Fallout. And this stage was even bigger. And we went to New York City for this one. I was on set for 2 months, and it was very intense. So for those who've done film work, this was 15-hour days, 7 days a week for 2 months. And their entire project did that schedule for a year and a half. And I don't know how they do it. That's just too much work. So I had 1 day off during that 2 months. And of course, what did I do on my day off? I shot a short film. That's what we do to relax. So this was our virtual production team. And if you've seen the show, this is what, this sequence looks like in the show, but it was actually in a stage or room kind of like this. We also went to the physical set. This is in downtown New York in Brooklyn. And they built one part of the set where the acting was. Has anyone seen Fallout? You know how popular it is? Yeah, it's a science fiction. It's based off the game Fallout. So the goal for us was, this was real. We had to digitize this and make it virtual. So this is what the color there, the rainbow color in that's where the LED wall would be. And then we're going to build a physical set there. And then we're going to see everything around it would be fake and virtual. So this is in Unreal Engine. So the reason I got hired is because I have visual effects and animation experience as well as games experience. And so I could kind of merge the 2 worlds. So when I started in the industry, there was games, it was animation, there was visual effects, and there was live action. And they were almost like separate cultures. But now, as technology is merging, it's just like I can come to Nepal and we're merging cultures. The same thing is happening in animation, where instead of having a games artist, a visual effects artist, a live action artist, now we just have artists. And they can work on any of these things because the tools are becoming more simple and communication becomes easier. So we built this scene in Unreal Engine and using Maya. And then this is what the stage looked like for us. So only the things here are physical and everything else will be virtual. So you can see our digitized version back there. That's all faking in Unreal Engine on the wall. And they had like physical corn and then they had virtual corn. And our job was to match it, to make it look very, you can't tell where the real goes and where the virtual studs. So we had multiple times a day. We had daylight, evening time, nighttime, and then when the lights go out. So it's a very complicated sequence, and this is what the show looks like. So everything on the back wall is fake. It's just like filming right here. That entire back wall, all the characters that are walking back there were actual digital characters that digitized people. It was really fun to work on, and this went really fast. Like from this sequence, we spent a long time on this sequence, and then they said, hey, we have a new sequence we dreamed up. Can you shoot this? You have 2 weeks to put it together. We're like, sure, why not? It's a game engine. We can make this work. We also worked on an interesting sequence where the characters go out into the real world. So Fallout is set in like a post-apocalyptic world where all nuclear bombs have destroyed the entire planet, and the characters have been living in a vault underground, and they come out into the real world. And so these were some of the early designs that we did in Unreal Engine. And we were planning how we would actually do the shoot. What was fun for me was to be able to interact with directors of photography who had never worked in animation before. And then me working in film, and I was working with a lot of game artists who had never worked in live action before, and pulling a community together to communicate how to do lighting in virtual spaces and physical spaces at the same time, choosing what type of light sources we would use. We planned the entire sequence using VR helmets remotely from around the world because we had artists in multiple countries. So we could do this online with Zoom calls all together. And Jonathan Nolan had his VR glasses on and could shoot virtually and plan every single shot. So when we showed up in New York, we could build the scene. So this is what it looks like from the show. There's our team. So that's Jonathan Nolan in the middle and me right behind him. That was our team. So this big thing right here is physical, and then everything else behind it is virtual. So we had to make it match perfectly. And then from there, I decided I want to, for once in my life, be able to be in control of my own time. So after having worked 15-hour days, I'm like, I kind of want to just move back to the mountains and have a calm life. So I had done a lot of mentoring, and I really enjoy mentoring as well. That is something that has always been a passion of mine. Training people, encouraging other people, encouraging new artists. Like after 28 years of doing this, I think it's time that maybe I could start training and teaching. So I started lightingmentor.com, and now I mentor artists like yourselves, and I consult with studios, but I don't want to work on a lot of big film projects where someone else is telling me, oh, you have to do a lot of crunch anymore. I get to pick with my time and where I invest my resources. And I'll talk a little bit more about this, but I think what's important is to realize with all of this experience, like this was my path, this was my story. And every one of us has a story of like, how do you get into this? I was a child who had ambitions and dreams and didn't know what to do, and I didn't have a lot of support. I didn't have a lot of people who had done this before. I didn't have parents who worked in the film industry. I didn't know anyone. But somehow the planets aligned, and I was able to take my ambition and my passion and achieve all of these amazing things. I even look back on it and like, wow, I got to work on that. That's really cool. That's really fun. This has been really amazing. So this is the challenge to you. Like, what do you want? What is your dream? What is your path? Do you want to do any of these things? So I want to talk about some of the industry and some of the things that I see because I've mentored people through the years. So I want to talk about some of the things that stop artists from being artists and that stop artists from pursuing a career, because there are repeat themes that happen. So first, let's just talk about all of the different jobs, because I think most people think artists and they think, I'm going to just paint on the street and sell my paintings in a market and maybe I don't make enough money, and that would be a really hard lifestyle. I mean, my parents were always like starving artists. I don't want to be a starving artist. There's no money in that. That's not a stable career. So let's talk about all of the jobs, because there's a lot of jobs, and a lot of these are very well-paying jobs as well in the world market. So of course, there's fine art. You could paint in a market, you could sell your prints, you could do still lifes, portraits, landscapes, expressionism, abstract sculpture. You could do traditional paintings if you want. You could do landscapes, you could do portraits, and all of these are career possibilities. There's certain things you need to learn to be able to do this. There's a lot of classic art through the ages that is just doing this with traditional paint. There's of course graphic design, graphic arts. This is something that I think a lot of young artists that want to work in animation, their parents convince them to do graphic design. And I think graphic design is amazing, but it is not illustration and it is not animation. And I have so many friends that have been sucked into this world because this is where there's a lot of money, but it's also a little bit boring. I'm sorry if anyone here is a graphic designer, but for me as a visual storyteller, this is more about logos, and it's more about text, and it's often more about selling things than it is about telling complex stories. But this is an entire field, and there are a lot of jobs in this. Then there's, of course, product arts. So if you want to do fashion design, product design, 3D printing, there's a lot of different real artist jobs here too, where you're designing costumes, and it can be for films or it can be for manufacturing, but this is an entire field of the arts that you can connect with. I've done for just a little bit in this field. There's also environmental arts. So this is interior design, theme park design, architectural, rendering, film set design. This is an exciting career as well. I've often thought this would be so fun because if I knew how to do this, my house would look so cool. You know, I'd have like my living room would be like a hobbit hole, and then my kitchen would be like from Star Wars, and that would just be amazing. But I never learned this. This would be a fun thing to do. But this is, like being on set for Fallout was so amazing because inside, even looking up close, like that looks like metal with rust. But then I come around the other side and it's like, there's tape and just paint, and like, how do they do it? It's just like cheap materials. It's so cool. Here's us inside the ship from the beginning of Fallout. So there was artists that were building the physical set, and then we were doing a virtual set. So that's environmental arts. So here's the set of Westworld as well. Then there's photography. So you can go down the entire realm of photography, videography, or cinematography, and they're different. Photography is stills. Videography is doing things like weddings or events or documentaries, documenting the real world. And of course, cinematography is manipulating the world to say it's not just reality. We're telling a deeper story, so we're going to change the light. We're going to change reality and tell a deeper story. I love this as well. I love photography. Part of the reason that I wanted to come to Nepal and I brought my son with me is that he's a cinematographer as well. And we're like, well, if we go to Nepal and we work with a studio, this is going to be fun, but we can also go and just shoot. Photography, we can come here and we can shoot a lot of things, and we've had so much fun. Actually, we got some of our new friends to help us film and dress in traditional outfits, and I have a new course that I'm making, which is photography for painters. Or I really want it to be photography for artists, but photographers are artists, and they might be offended to say, why are you teaching me my craft? So I'm going to call it photography for painters. But for anyone who does 3D, anyone who does illustration or painting, I think it's really important to understand cameras and understand lenses and understand cinematography. So part of this course will be shot here in Nepal. So once you understand 2D, still photography, then you can translate that to cinematography. And this is visual storytelling. And these are some examples. So this is an entire career as an artist as well. And there's concept art. This is also something that is very near to me, that I love very much. And this is designing the worlds. So it can start with something as simple as fan arts, character design, creature design, environmental design. How many people want to be a concept artist? Anybody in here? All right, awesome, great. Concept art is super fun. This is where you design the characters of the world. So I became very close friends with many concept artists at Pixar. I just was fascinated by this. You can see they're designing how the characters move, who they are, what they are. And some of these are flat, just kind of like shapes in motion. And then when it gets into the realm of what I love, this is designing the night for the films. So these are considered color keys. This is my specialty. This is the thing that I love so much. So a lot of this is the early design. This is pre-production before you actually shoot a film. You plan everything out. Or you could actually make the product itself. So these are from Riot Games, and these are illustrations. So these are for card games. This is the same skill of learning to paint, like refine the painting, because this is the product. This is this is like the instructions for the final product. The film is the final product versus illustration is the final product. And there's a lot of art that people do like this, and a lot of painted illustration that's really amazing to tell stories and to show new worlds, to design new places. And this is an entire career that is really, really fun. And I love learning this. Of course, there's also storyboarding in part of this, comics, graphic novels, animation. So this is a little bit more like the motion, the action, and the way the characters move, the way you tell the story through the gestures and the poses. Comic books are done this way, graphic novels are done this way. Then there's 3D virtual art, so 3D modeling, simulation, gaming, virtual production. Can you see how many different jobs there are? There are hundreds of thousands of jobs worldwide. And apparently there's over $300 billion worth of investment into this because people want, like 200 years ago with art, you would go to a temple or you go to a museum, where now we pull out our phones and we consume the art itself, the storytelling of our worlds and everything that we do. So all of these different careers have one set of things that they share in common. To me, these are the foundations. These are the skills that really matter. This is not the tools. This is not the buttons. This is not how that camera works. This is not the Photoshop brushes. This is not the small details. This is the true foundation of visual storytelling. So creativity, imagination, shape, language, design, anatomy, pose, gesture, that's kind of character-centric, perspective, composition, lighting, material, color, and visual storytelling. I encourage all of you to look into each of these because right now in the world, like when I started in the industry in 1996, if you knew the buttons, you got hired because there was about 5,000 people in the world that did this. Now there's probably 10 million people who do this. And you can go and buy a computer and run free Blender software and you can make your own film now. So we don't care that you know Blender. We don't care, like Pixar gets. When I left Pixar 11 years ago, the number of people that would apply for jobs there, it's 3,000 people every day that would apply for jobs. So it was really, really, really hard to get a job at Pixar. It's even harder now because there's even more industries and there's even more, universities that are teaching this, and there's even fewer jobs. So what matters more is this. So these skills are what we need to learn. We need you to be able to be an artist to tell stories. That is the most important thing. Composition is about drawing your eye to what is most important. Anatomy, pose, and gesture is about expressing emotion through your body language. It's about acting. Lighting, color is about drawing your eye to the right part of the frame. That's what's really important. And so this is what I teach because I feel a lot of universities don't teach these foundations anymore. These are the classic foundations of art through the ages where you learn this by doing and creating together. So the very best thing you can do for your career is like those doodles I did as a child in my notebooks during class that all my teachers said, stop drawing on everything. I'm like, no, I just love it so much. But that was the best thing that I did because I was building the foundations in how to communicate the stories of our life. So you need to learn to see like an artist, not just learn the tools, see like an artist. So let me talk about some of the things that actually stop people from going in the path. The first one I call the curse of accidental success. So this is when you pull out a camera, like let's say photography, and you just start taking pictures. You don't know why, and sometimes you have a great photo, And then most of the other photos are like, they're just like, this is terrible. I don't know why I did well, but like if we look at these two photos, these are actually at the same place. They're a little bit different angle. Which one's better? They're both photos. They're both realistic. They're both lit well. I'm not going to say which one is better, but one of these would be considered more appealing than the other. How about these two? This is the same dog in the same house in the same town. Which one's a better photo? Would you know why the one that you like is better? Why is it better? Is it just the curse of accidental success that you just happen to get the lighting right and the composition right? You have to see as an artist and understand those foundations, which one of these is actually better and why. Always, always ask why. How about these two pictures? This is the exact same moment in the exact same place. It's just a different time of day. So this is in Iceland and a place called Geyser. This is where all geysers are named from. This erupts every 5 minutes. One of these is better than the other because of the light in the composition. Actually, the physical composition is the same, but the lighting on the one on the right is terrible. The one on the left is pretty good. Watch. Okay, these two are kind of similar. Person walking down a city street in the rain. One of them is just okay. So your goal as an artist is to not have accidental success. The difference to me of a hobbyist and a professional is that a hobbyist maybe 10% of the time produces something beautiful. It's not about the quality of the work. It's about the amount of time that you succeed. A professional will succeed 80% of the time. We still fail. We still have, we try something crazy and we're like, well, that was terrible. That always happens. But you start to learn the why, you start to succeed more. The other thing that happens that stops a lot of people is you get into an art vortex. A vortex is like a whirlpool. It just spins you in circles. And this is when you just draw one thing, or when you just do one skill and you build that one skill and only that one skill, and you don't build any other skills. And so many artists get stuck in this. This is probably the most common portfolio that I see in the entire world. And this is an art vortex of saying, I saw an artist on YouTube who paints anime girls, and I think that is a career for me. I want to be a YouTuber who paints anime girls. And they paint a scene with a character with no expression in an environment that has no meaning, doing absolutely nothing. And you can't get hired for this. It might be fun to do, but I couldn't pick someone's actual work. So I made a copy of what I see. But there are millions of people who draw this and say, I want to be a professional artist. I'm like, you're going to have to learn more. You have to stretch yourself into something a little more. Or I see things like this. It's a path with a tree and a house, and there's nothing happening here. It's just, this is what we paint when we're children. And you might be able to make this a little bit better, but this is still the art vortex of just, you only draw characters and you don't know how to do environments. Or you only do environments and you don't know how to do characters. Or you only do photography of trees. Don't get stuck in that vortex. Keep learning. Have a hunger and a thirst for learning. And that is what I have always done. I'm always just curious to learn more as much as I can. I want to see like an artist. I want to learn from my photographer friends, from my cinematographer friends, from my sculptor friends, from the people who work in theme parks. And I'm constantly reaching out and talking to people. And that has opened up doors for me. And I think it's not about being smart. It's more about being curious. And that is what drives me. It's just I just love this. And I want to just learn more. And I want to come to Nepal and eat the food and realize how much food they give you. You're stuffed all the time here. It's amazing. It expands my worldview, gets me out of my bubble of just my small influence of my culture. And it's a really good thing. And I want to do that not just with culture in the world, but I want to do that with culture in the arts. So one of the things that I think is interesting that happens with artistic growth. So we have skill on the left and time. And I think a lot of us think that growth happens like this, but it does not. What usually happens in our artistic growth is something more like this. So as children, we're really creative. We'll draw monsters and crazy things and wild worlds and, alien spaceships, and we're really creative. And then we start learning the rules of perspective and composition and anatomy, all of those foundational skills. And it's almost like our art goes, and it almost goes down a little bit, because now we're trying to follow all of these complex rules and we can't quite keep up. It's really hard. So I call this the dead marshes of art. Have any of you seen Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
In Lord of the Rings, there's a sequence where the hobbits are excited to go on this adventure. Well, sort of excited. They've got to bring this ring to the volcano and throw it in the volcano. There's Lord of the Rings summarized for you. Sorry to this spoil. But they reach this point where they have the ring, they have their quest, and they reach this area where they can't see the other side. And they're just walking through this swamp. And in the swamp, there's faces of the dead that are looking up at them. And you can't look at them, otherwise they will suck you down in and you'll die. And that's over. There's no monsters here. There's no dragons. There's no armies. You just have to walk across and not look down. To me, I think that this is a really great analogy for most artists when you're learning, because there are so many big things to learn. And you're like, okay, I want to be an artist. And as a child, I just draw for the fun of it. But now you actually need to not just impress your mother. You have to impress studios who have money to pay you, which means you're going to have to learn a lot of skills. And your schooling probably did not teach you those skills. So you're going to have to learn perspective, composition, storytelling, design, animation, acting, all of these really hard things to learn. This is the dead marshes. This is the flat area. And what are the faces that want to suck you down? It's TikTok. It's Instagram. It's social media where you see some 13-year-old who's producing visual effects that look like Industrial Light and Magic, and you're like, I suck. I might as well give up and just fall into the swamp and not be an artist. I'm just going to be a taxi driver, and that's it. This is the dead marshes of art. You have to keep that passion to say it is worth it. I can say that I grew up in that small town, and it is worth it. I cannot imagine doing anything else. I love what I do so much that you have to make it through that series. And then you'll start to see your growth. Once those foundational skills start to become part of your subconscious, then it becomes easy again. And you start to work with people that are really passionate and excited, and you can start to tell complex stories, and you have those foundations to work off of. And then the world is available to you, and you can do anything, and it's really amazing. And so you could go back to the anime girls, and you could apply the skills of lighting to it, and you could make it a little bit better with lighting. Or you could paint that sunset with the tree, and you could make it a little bit better. But it's still kind of boring. We want to do things that have more story. So how do we learn these things? What are some suggestions that I've done in my career that have really helped me from a color and light standpoint alone? There's so many different things. So one of the things that I always did were color studies. And as a lighting director, we would get together once a week at Pixar for the entire 8 years that I was there. And we would set up a still life, you'd crack an egg in a bowl, and then I'd paint it. We'd have 1 hour, paint it. We did this in the studio. We were in the studio just moments ago, and we set a coffee cup there, and we all painted it together. It was pretty fun. And this is like the beginning way of learning to start to see like an artist. Study the world. Really don't draw what you think you see. Draw what you actually see, and you'll start to see smaller details than you've noticed before. So I did this for years. I teach people how to do this, and this is kind of like phase number 1 for lighting color. Learning to paint something like this in 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour, and to be able to make a painting that represents reality really quickly. So these are all illustrations based off of studies. I love doing plein air. So plein air is the French word for painting life in one go. So I sit in the forest, I paint in the forest, and there's the end results of about half an hour of sitting in the forest. Going and studying on the street, different times of day, the same location again and again, be there in the rain, be there in the sun, be there in the morning. And then we start to branch beyond. So you start to take what you've learned from the real world and start to apply it to animated worlds. So we would take classic storybooks, children's books, coloring books, and reimagine them with light and color in different ways. And I help train people how to do this as well. But these are fun ways to grow. I don't know if any of you have ever tried something like this, but this is like coloring book 2.0. It's not just, we color the tree green and the wood brown and the shirt red. You're learning to see color and light. So this is another scene. What would this look like if it was actually a 3D scene and paint it completely differently? with the goal of being able to make worlds and illustrations that are 100% original from your imagination. And this is the path to get to this point. So I have, we mentioned I have an apprenticeship program, and I take groups of artists. So I help them create, so like this is from a project that my son helped create as well. He wrote the story for it, helped with the story. And so we help artists really understand composition with bad sketches. Like, this doesn't look pretty. You probably wouldn't see this in your portfolio. You wouldn't put this online and like, this is my artwork, hire me. But what this does is this helps you see the potential is as the artist planned this shot, these little squiggles tell a story, and like as they refine it, and like, well, this is these two characters and they're coming into this like lower slums, and we're refining it progressively along the way to really see a composition here. We're starting to explore the color and the light, and then we choose the angles of the sun. You kind of see the process of refining this until we get to the point that we have a final illustration. So these are what some of the students that work with me have produced through the years. I'm working on a brand new project right now that's an animation project that reminds me a lot of the team that is working on here in Nepal, which I'm very excited about. And we have these little flower characters. So these are some of the early designs. And this, to me, is so much fun to design worlds and imaginative things. This is back to what I did as a child, but now I get to do it professionally. And we have lots and lots of different characters, hundreds upon hundreds of designs and drawings to kind of plan who our two characters are. And this is our final approved design. And these are just paintings of what the characters will look like for our fictional project. And the students that I work with are from all over the world, and they help, like work together to get the experience of what it's like to work in an animation studio. So when they join a team, like one of the teams here, the Chi Studios, you can make an actual film and know how to design things. This is some of the artwork from the students and how they produce for this project. So what are your dreams? What do you want to do? How do you take this information? Don't let the dead marshes suck you in. Don't get stopped. If you have a passion, you have to pursue it. And one of the best things is having a community like this, so you realize you're not alone. Most artists, we're the weirdos, we're the nerds, we're the freaks, we're the ones who are in our towns that were playing games or we're drawing in the dirt, and we're just making up weird stories. And a lot of our friends didn't understand us. They're like, play sports. And like, I'm only coordinated from here down. That's all I've got. If my arms or legs get involved, it's bad. It's not good. I grew too tall too fast. I don't know how to do that, but I can draw and I can play music, and that's it. So we need each other because this is a very, very small community in the world. Out of the 8 billion people in the world, there's maybe, just a few million of us that do arts. And there's even fewer of us that do animation. There's probably only like 300,000 or 400,000 people in the world that do animation professionally. So it's really important to work together, to share information with each other. So that's my presentation. We can switch into a conversation mode. If you want more information about my training, you can go to lightningmentor.com, or if you want to communicate with me more there, you can send me messages. But that's my presentation.
Let's give a round of applause for Jeremy again, because there is not enough room. Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Lance. The presentation, I forgot that I was actually supposed to host, so I forgot what I was supposed to say. So it was that good. And I was listening to him, what I felt is that, oftentimes when you meet your heroes, what happens is then you get demystified, and then you realize that, oh, they're only human. But this time what happens is that I realized he's only human, but a human who didn't let the inner child grow up. And that's us, right? And that's brilliant. So that's what I could really resonate to everything he was saying. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone here who felt the same way, right? Right, so do check out lightingmentor.com. I'm sure we all could benefit quite a lot from his mentorship, his classes, and his apprenticeship, and everything that he has to offer. And so before we move on to full-on Q&A session, I would like to invite the Chairperson of Film Development Board, Mr. Dinesh D.C, to share a few words and to share his experience here. Thank you.
Good evening, boys and girls. Hey! First of all, the day was full of surprises for me. I didn't know AVAAN was being launched or inaugurated. I didn't know this sort of presentation were there. I thought it was just a simple meet and greet with one of the legendary persons that we have. Please kindly put your hands together for Mr. Vickery. After his presentation, I'm pretty impressed with the oratory power, the motivational speech, and your career path. I think all these Nepalese youth are motivated with their career path, especially while you applied again and again in Pixar, failed, but you applied and you never gave up. That is what called the spirit, and this spirit should be taken by every youth in Nepal. Thank you for guiding us with your directives. I don't know much about the technicalities of the animation, graphics, but in a superficial way, I know its importance. So, congratulations for AVAAN members. Please kindly unite together. And Film Board's arm is widespread and open to welcome you anytime with very good idea and presentation. If you have something, we'll go hand in hand. We'll work together, shoulder to shoulder. No one is big, no one is small. We are all same. We're on the same platform. We are trying to knock the door, which will open a wider horizon of world cinema platform. So like that or used. Anyway, Dan, I didn't know much about you, sir. Sorry to say. But that on I found that you are one of the legendary technocrats from Hollywood. And I'm pretty impressed with your presentation too. I had only word that incredible, and that is incredible. It has changed the scenario or genre of superhuman, and it was really appreciated by everybody all around the globe who are trying to tell their story through the animation. So for that, you are always as a leader there to guide all the aspirant new generation people here in Nepal and around the globe. That is the pride you should take back. Now I was about to ask you one question. Now I have escaped it. I was about to ask you, are you married? Exactly when he said, my son is married. So I skipped that question because somebody gave us this Nepali cap, and this Nepali cap is symbol of Mount Everest, the Sagarmatha. And if somebody is just staying, residing here in Kathmandu Valley, then their cap will be, a bit like a Vatican. And married people must wear Nepali cap with this stitch part on their left side. But she gave us on the right side. So I thought I have become recycled bachelor after wearing this cap. And send advice to you. Every man is a bachelor while he's 5 kilometers away from home. You are thousands of people away from home. So you are bastards too. Anyways, just I wanted to make you lighthearted because it was too serious, because everybody were involved in. I was traveling to a different world. I don't know many technical terms there. It was very new to me, but I enjoyed it. I know there were some salient points that you told these people, and these salient points can put value in their projects, future projects here in Nepal. That is the thing that we are taking back home, and that is the point where we need to bow our head in respect to the legendary Vickery. And this, the idea was briefed by Mr. Anil. There are a beautiful place in the western part of Nepal, a small village, Guzlegaon. He told me about this thing, and I, at the blank range, I said yes. because anything good that is happening in the show business and in the cinema world, I always agree and I appreciate that. So this came to be like a live event, very fruitful event. For that, I'd like to thank Mr. Aminu, his enthusiasm, and the AVAAN people as well. And we had many promises. In your presentation, there was a big LED screen, the video wall, for the virtual reality thing, which will be replacing the chroma part, green screen, and the blue screen, or whatever chroma is there, the color. Well, you chroma the color, isn't there, folks?
Yep, they get that.
Well, I was asked by the King of Japan years back. I was now I was selected from Nepal as a most dynamic youth to represent in Japan. And he was just a crown prince then, and he asked me in a royal palace that people say that you are that sort of celebrity where 60% people, they know you by face, and 80% people, they know you by voice. And the voice artist in television and radio as well. So it was the gathering moment for me, but it was hair-raising moment for me. So I said yes. Well, he asked me, what do you want to do? What do you have your idea? So I said, we don't have any institute where I can go and learn. And even the peon is the helper of the Nepal television, then state-run television. They go to Luxembourg, Netherlands, and they are trained. But we don't get that offer because we're outsider, we're freelancer. So he said, okay. He instructed in Japanese, which I couldn't understand. But that lady took me to the NSK television. And there was a short-term 7-day crash course where I learned about the chroma, green screen, virtual reality, animation, 3D animation, and everything. And I was smart enough till 2005 until it came the Facebook and the YouTube. Everyone started knowing about the thing. So, anyways, that was my initial idea. I made few films. It was the first film I did with animated thing in a digital vehicle. That was called AVAAN years back. I guess it was in 20 years back. It was in 2062 in Nepali. We deduct 57 from that you will have your one date. Anyway, so that was my journey. And recently, before 6 months, Nepal government appointed me as the chairperson of this film board. And film board was not taken seriously by the Nepali people, because in most of the third world country, young people, they don't rely on government. They don't try to go and knock the door for benefit or piece their story. But scenario is different. I'm very receptive. Please kindly come with very good ideas. I'm there to help you, whether I am in this chair or not. I'm always there to help you young people. Because you might know, few stars of Nepal, Dipak Rajgiri, Jitu Nepal, Damandru Prakati, Gopal Nepal, Dipas Nepal, Kutu Gauni Kiel. Rajan Raj Siwakoti, Pradeep Khanka, and all of them were the product of my team. And I'm happy that they are leading Nepal's film industry right now. Today I'm very lucky and proud of them. And I want to be proud of these technocrats once again, because I know you have the enthusiasm, energy, dreams. I have the connection.
It's about
Don't use me. Utilize me. You will be benefited. I told Mr. Anil, it is my second meeting with him. And while I saw that small teaser type, it was like cliffhanger for me. It took me to the different world, and I told him while you were there. Sorry to, I was concentrating on him at that time. And I told him, I have few good people who are loaded in pockets and are trying to invest and trying to find out the very good ideas. So I can be your vehicle. I can be a good connector for you people. And Nani Babu, I told them I want to take one picture with them. I'll take with you as well. When we start to talking about people here, I'm not that worried, I'm rejuvenated and I'm recycled one. I'm not that worried. So, and I want to take that picture because I want to show it to my granddaughter who is there in Australia, and she never sleeps without watching Nani. So, Mr. Vickery, we don't see differences, we see dreams. We don't see borders, we see bridges. Let's have the bridge in between Nepal and America and create a world, different world, through the medium of VFX and animation or graphics design. I don't know other technical terms. Thank you very much.
Am I right, guys? He's like the cutest person ever, and I'm so glad that he is leading Nepal Film Development Board, and he is the spokesperson for the Nepali film industry right now. And I'm so glad that he has a promise and the enthusiasm of the youth to help us reach our destination. So again, please give a round of applause for Mr. Dinesh D.C. Thank you so much, sir. It was amazing. Okay, so for the next segment, we're going to have a direct one-on-one Q&A segment. So I'm going to ask a few questions to Jeremy that I got from my organizer friends and also from the registration forms that you guys filled. So I'll try to cover as much as possible, and then after that, we'll open the floor for the next open Q&A segment. Does that sound good to you guys? Pixar, we still have that energy? Okay, so just give us 1 minute to set up the chairs and then we'll start the segment. The table in the middle and a couple of sofas and two people talking, and it's such an honor to be here, sitting up opposite to you. I planned this segment just because I could feel this, I take a picture on with you like this. So whatever comes next is just bonus for me. Many people were asking the same thing. So as an industry expert, what key advice would you give to aspiring Nepali animators and VFX artists trying to enter the global market? And what technical and artistic skills do you believe will be most crucial for future animators and VFX artists? And also follow up on that, what's your view on remote collaboration in the animation industry, especially artists working in developing countries like Nepal?
Okay, that's a big question. There's a lot in there. First, the bit of advice that I give to people that are new to the industry is spend more time actually creating projects than reading books or watching YouTube videos or learning about it. A lot of people get this backwards, where they spend 8 hours watching YouTube videos and 15 minutes creating. Flip that. Spend a short amount of time learning and then go and make films, make animation, make paintings, go and spend more time actually creating. And then when you can't create it anymore, when you reach your limit, then go and learn a little bit more, but spend time actually creating. It's kind of like if you were wanting to be a professional athlete, you don't get to become a professional football player by reading books. You go and you play football. And that's the same with our industry. Make films. If you want to work in films, you have to make films. No one is going to ask you to come and make a film if you don't have experience. You just have to go and do it. And that's my biggest advice that I give. And I've given that for many years. For the skills that are needed, I think I posted the foundations of visual storytelling are the most important things to learn. Composition, timing, acting, storytelling, cinematography, When it comes to painting, would be anatomy and perspective, camera work, and all of those things are the really solid foundational, practical, learnable skills that can help you tell your stories. And thirdly, talking about remote work, the pandemic was horrible. So many people died and the economies of the world suffered. But there was one really great thing that came from that. For every bad thing that happens, sometimes there's beautiful things. And to me, this was showing companies that remote work actually does work. So I have worked with so many people all over the globe. Like right now, the apprenticeship program, we have an artist in Czech Republic, one in Norway, one in Denmark, one in the UK, one in several in the United States and in Canada. I've worked with people in Mexico and the Philippines and Malaysia and Australia and Switzerland and like all over the world. And we can, South Africa, Brazil, Nepal, India, with multiple people. We have someone's friends will say, hey, we're starting a game studio. Hey, we're starting a small film project. Will you volunteer? We don't have much money, but you'll build those friends. And then later when they get hired at one of the bigger studios, they'll call you if you were nice. They'll call you if they liked working with you. I remember my very first job, there was a team of like 5 of us, and we were all brand new to the industry. None of us had ever worked anywhere else. And I look at that team of 5 people. One of them has directed his own series. He's now a director at Disney Feature Animation. The other person is now an art director at Pixar. One other person is an animator at Pixar. And then the last person is the environment supervisor at Weta Animation in New Zealand. And that's where the 5 of us have gone in our careers. And we were all just students that had a passion for storytelling. And so you can do that too.
But do you think it's different when we come from a small country, like a third world country like Nepal? You saw the scene here, you saw the situation that's going on. Do you think those advices still apply when we're here, or do you think it's a bit different here?
I think that once you get online, as long as you have a good internet connection, it doesn't matter where you're from. If you have a story to tell and you have a passion for the arts, we don't care. We don't care where you're from. We don't care your lineage. We were just like, great. We love that you have a story to tell. So to me, I don't think it matters. This is a personal opinion of mine. I look back on my parents' generation and I look at things that I think that were done in the 1950s and 60s that now we look back on and we say that was disgusting, that was unethical, racism. A lot of things. The United States still has a lot of racism and it's terrible and there's horrible things happening in the world. And I think, what are the things that I'm doing now in my life that, 20, 30 years from now, they will look back on us and say, you all were disgusting. And one of the things that I see is nationalism. And I think we will look back on nationalism and go, we're humans. We're all humans. We should respect humans independent of where you are from. You should have respect because you are alive and that you are human. And as long as you treat others with respect, you get that same respect in return. And that's all that's needed. It doesn't matter if you're from where you're from. I believe in this so passionately because I've had the opportunity to travel and realize that most of us in the world, we have more similarities than we have differences. So I don't think it matters at all. We're so excited about your project. I want to see your film succeed so much. I want you to shake the industry. Like Hollywood, the United States and Hollywood is a system that needs to be shaken up. It shouldn't cost $200 million to make a film.
Thank you, Aaron. Very fine with you. So I have a follow-up on that. So how do you think small studios from Nepal can approach international projects or clients or co-production for basic collaboration opportunities?
There's 2 different ways to have small studios collaborate. And I think you touched on this before. You can work on some other person's project from Finland or from England or for the United States, and that's okay. You can work on TV commercials selling soap or diapers, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you want to tell your stories. Like the moment that we met online and then when we were driving in the car the past couple of days, like, okay, this is someone else, like meeting you too. I can see that passion in your eyes. All of you
have this desire to tell your stories. And that is the thing that matters. So you can work on other people's projects, but I would encourage you to work on your own. And the industry will recognize good stories. We're blind to, we don't care what degree you have from what university. I don't care. I worked with someone who had a doctorate from Harvard. And then I worked with other people who don't have a degree at all, and they're doing the same job. It doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is your actual work, your portfolio, and the stories that you're telling. And if you have passion for that, people will buy it.
That's
Quality.
Thank you.
So I'm going to address the big elephant in the room that's in every room in the world right now, and that elephant was generated by Midjourney.
Yes.
So how do you think artists like us should navigate in the ever-changing world where AI is the next big thing right now? And how do we still tell our stories, and how do we still keep ourselves relevant?
There are some similarities when I look at the history of cameras. So in 1806 or 1809, I can't remember which it was, cameras were invented. And camera obscura was something that had existed for 2,000 years. The concept of, a pin box, camera. If you look into the history of it, it's been around for a while, but it wasn't until 1860 when cameras became commercially available. And there was a lot of painters that freaked out. They're like, this is horrible for us. This is going to ruin painting. No one will ever paint ever again because cameras are going to ruin it. You can snap a picture and now there's no need for painters ever again. And they freaked out. But what happened was, yes, some people lost their jobs. There was some disruption, but what it did is that you realize that there's a kind of a different industry that came. So instead of only wealthy, people, kings and nobles would have portraits of them, now we were starting to see pictures of regular people, just real people that lived in society. So in the 1880s, 1890s, we started to see the true picture of what cultures were like. And we don't have that picture before that point. Photography ended up being a good thing. And then there's a whole new industry. It birthed the film industry. They wouldn't have ever existed if it wasn't for photography. And it became a new art form. So we're at the area where it's a really scary place with AI. I also believe that AI has done some very unethical things. I do not like that they stole from us. I think that there's a lot to be figured out, and I think that it's wrong. I do not use AI, and I don't let anyone in my programs use AI because you are at risk of losing your actual skills. But I also have played enough with it to realize that it cannot compete with storytelling. What it forces us to do is to come to those foundations, the jobs that will disappear, because there will be jobs that disappear. Just like certain painting jobs disappeared in the 1800s, I think there will be a lot of jobs that disappear, but they're going to be the jobs that you don't really want to work on anyway. It's going to be selling toilet paper. It's going to be selling furniture. It's going to be doing things that you can it's a very simple non-story that you say, like if I use Midjourney and say, show me a car being driven by an elephant, it could do a single image of that. But as somebody who works in animation, what I do with an artist is I say, okay, I want that exact same car, but I want the elephant to have a different facial expression. Midjourney can't do that. It draws a whole new car and a whole new elephant. And they're like, okay, exactly that same thing, but change the lighting. It can't do that either. It's nowhere close to that. Maybe it can do that, but what it tells me is that it responds like a computer. It does not respond like a human being. When we sit in a room and we do concept design, we slowly make changes to get it better and better and better, and we try multiple different things. And AI just does not think like that. So you can take some encouragement at this point that it won't do that. And it's like stop motion animation as well. Stop motion animation should not exist. It is the most difficult type of animation that you do. But there are still multiple studios in the world that do it because it's beautiful and it's worth the time and we enjoy doing it. So for me, even if AI tries to take over jobs, I'm still going to make films. I don't care. I'm going to be like, I don't care about that. You can try to make your films, but I think our films will have more heart and we'll have more energy and we'll have more life. and we can focus in on the foundations. Do you feel the same?
Absolutely right. I mean, AI is sort of becoming an inevitable resource, right? And so I heard this saying, or I read it somewhere, that I wanted AI to do my laundry and my cooking so that I could focus on art. But turns out AI is doing my art so that I have to do my laundry and cooking.
Yeah.
But hopefully, but it's also like, we're on a early stage of things, and it's like it's going to replace jobs, but it's going to replace mediocre jobs, mediocre people, right? Which are really good at what you do. I feel like we don't have to worry about it at all. So hopefully that future is where we are headed. And I'm sure artists like you and people like us can make it happen.
And some studios as well are realizing that they don't want the artist jobs to disappear. So they ban the use, like Pixar and Disney have banned AI. You can't use it in the studio at all, like none. So there are companies that have an ethical standard, and the only way that they can start making, using AI is for the jobs that we don't want to do. So like, who wants to do hand rotoscoping? Nobody wants to do that. If you know what that is, it's a very painful job. It'll destroy your wrist really fast, and it's not fun. So let's get AI to do that. Let's remove noise. If you have your camera and you're in low light and you have grain, let's use AI to remove grain. That would be a great job for it, but let's not have it tell stories.
Exactly. That's so great. Thank you. So I think AI is a debate that's going to go on for a long time before we even figure out what to do with it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So hopefully it doesn't lead us to a dystopian iRobot kind of a future. But that's all I'm hoping. So moving on from AI, so about you. So what has been the most significant challenge you've faced in your journey as a lighting artist, and how did you overcome it?
Probably imposter syndrome, just feeling like I'm not good enough. I think in life, like as a child, I was a lot of anxiety. I actually had a very poor family life. My father was abusive and ended up dying from suicide when I was a teenager. And it's a really hard story. And the reason that I talk about it is that I think it's more common than we know. That a lot of us think, well, you have a successful life, so you must have had a wonderful family. I'm like, no, I did not, and I had to struggle a lot. And that taught me, it really worked on my self-confidence, and I just didn't feel confident. And so I had to do a lot of work to say that, no, I deserve to be here, and all of you deserve to be here. And that's a deep emotional struggle. And I think that's like even seeing your story, struggles with families and struggles with emotion. These are the stories that AI can't tell. These are the ones that are like the really important things of life, to say, what is the meaning of life? Where do you find your true passion? And that's probably the hardest thing. There's technical challenges. There's weird directors sometimes. And those, whatever, we learn from those things. But I think it's the human element.
So true. It's so true. Thank you. And that was very brave that we share contributing on something they appreciated. So what technical and artistic skills do you believe will be most crucial for future animators and VFX artists in general?
Animators. So I want to talk about a couple of the different fields here. So there's the visual arts, that is 3D modeling, that is design, that is painting, that is color and light. And then there's animators, which is more about performance and acting. So if you as an animator, of course you should learn the tools and the buttons, but I think you should spend some time learning acting. So we'll see if everyone agrees with this. Most animators don't want to be actors. They want to be involved in films, but they want to hide behind a computer because they're shy. But I believe that every animator should step out and try actual acting just so that you experience it. One thing that I've realized with my son, he's done a lot of his own films, is he's appreciated being a cinematographer and being a director and being a producer and being an actor and being an editor and being a visual effects artist, because it makes you appreciate what other people do on your team. So if you see someone struggling with a camera, you're like, hey, the camera should be easy. And like, have you done it? Have you tried that before? And like, acting should be easier. Just act. And like, have you done it? You should try that too. So, I encourage people to branch out and try to learn those foundational skills and to branch into more of those skills. In the visual arts, it would be the same. Focus on story. story over beauty. I think often we say we want to make something beautiful, but that really should say, flip this. It should be story first, beauty second. Of course, we want it to be beautiful, but if it's something beautiful, just like a tree on a hill, no one cares. But if it's a tree on a hill that is, the tree is coming up out of the ground and running away from a mouse, that's far more interesting. You know, what is the story? Why is that tree running? That would be a much more interesting story.
And I think the most important aspect that you can have as an artist, and I see that in your work and your presentation a lot, is the skill of observation. Just be able to observe and soak in as much as you can. And as a director, I tend to do that as well. I try to see a little bit of mannerism in everywhere I go. Every people I meet, based on the culture, tradition, and the schooling that they have, what would I grab, learn from this person so that I can apply it in the characters that I direct, or the stories that I tell, and in the way that you go to the same place again in different lighting conditions just to paint it, and just to capture it. I think that's also a very important skill to have as an artist in any form. Do you agree with that?
I do. Yeah, it's interesting. I came up with I realized that there's a word that I really like, and this is extraction. So there's a book that's called Steal Like an Artist. Have you ever heard of that? It's a really great book. And I hate stealing because stealing implies that there's a victim, that you've taken something away from someone else. But if I have a cup and I put it on the table and I look at that cup and I paint what I see, I am stealing that image and putting it onto my canvas. But I haven't hurt the cup in any way. But if I want to paint something made out of glass, like say it's not just a glass, I want to paint a dragon made out of glass, I can learn to extract the essence of glass and to really understand the material and how does the light from over there shine over here, and what is the essence of glass, and observation helps to extract. So now I can paint something from imagination that's brand new that I can't see. I can paint something unique by learning to extract. So I can extract materials, I can extract lighting, I can extract somebody's gesture in their pose, I can extract some of the style. So like I could do a painting where I could like look at Anil, but put him into the pose of Nayan. And like I could merge the two and be able to build that skill to extract things from different parts of life through observation. And then you've got this really big toolkit of amazing things that you can do.
Grab it. I always believe that, any idea equals inspiration times experience.
Yeah.
You get inspiration from the things you watch, things you read, and when you observe and when you experience life, you merge these two together, and that's where your new ideas from. That's why it's so important to keep on traveling. Like you said, make your artists leave the room and travel and take them to see the mountains and all that. While you're traveling to Nepal, you've got so many ideas and inspiration. So that's what I've always believed, and it's so great to hear, and it's validating and reassuring to hear from you. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So my next question is more also like a suggestion, because, to get this program together and to make it happen, it was so difficult, especially because we're artists, we're not event organizers, and even all of us at AVAAN, we're like all the same species, like I said.
Yeah.
We were struggling with the venue, and thankfully Dinesh sir, agreed to do it. And even to call me to ask for that was such a huge challenge for me. Why do I really do it? It's not something that's not me. But then, it happened, and it's so great. And because you were here, that really motivated us to do this. But then again, I'm scared that this might not be a regular thing. I hope this does, and I hope at AVAAN will definitely try to do this. So my question to you is, in your opinion, what role do festivals, conferences, and local meetups like this play in shaping an animator? So let's contextualize it, or TFX artist's career.
I think of something like the Visual Effects Society, and I've been involved with the Visual Effects Society for many years. And it is such a great organization to inspire people that are working at small studios, and then you get to see a behind-the-scenes presentation. I've gone to so many different events. Like I show up to an event and Guillermo del Toro is presenting his newest film. I'm like, this is amazing. I want to do something like that. Different actors come in and share their stories, and we close the doors and we get to share things that you can't share online. They can tell the real stories. This is a special community. This is not something that ever goes, you could have special events where it doesn't go to YouTube, it's not recorded, and we can say, okay, tell us the real story. What was it really like being on set? What were the real struggles? And that to me is so valuable, and you can't get that by yourself. And so I've always enjoyed events like this, and communities like this. It is hard to organize. It takes some work. You're going to have some people that will take responsibility to make sure it stays alive. It could die very easily because we get busy. You're making films. But keeping this will help inspire the future and inspire new connections. So I've always found it useful.
So you think this should keep on happening a lot?
Yes. Yes.
Would you recommend your friends to go over to Nepal and participate in this kind of things?
Sure. I have a lot of friends.
We are on record.
Yeah.
Good. All right. See, the biggest challenge that I feel in our industry, being a creative person, is the factor of money, right? I mean, so you need money to make things, and then you need money to distribute in whatever, and then we tend to do a lot of client works, I make a lot of advertising. I work with agencies, brands, clients. So, but then a question for you is, how do you balance artistic creativity with client expectation? Even working in films, there are producers, there are co-producers, executive producers, and studios, and a lot of people are on top of you. So how do you maintain their expectations and deadlines, not to mention, because here deadline is always yesterday. In a commercial production environment. So how do you do that?
I will say one thing that I did not believe to be true when I started my career, but I can say now that even in big film, budget is always a problem. So as artists and as people, you will always spend 120% of your budget, always. So even working at Pixar, and we have $250 million to make this film, you would think, well, we can do anything we want. I'm like, no, we're always like, there's not enough time, there's not enough money. What do we cut from the film? And working on Fallout, the same thing. They're like, we don't have enough money. And like, it cost $44 million to build this LED stage for this 10 minutes of footage. That's ridiculous. That's, the budget is huge for just 10 minutes of animation, or not animation, but virtual production. And it still wasn't enough. So I think you have to just learn to be really efficient. Prioritize efficiency and creativity. Realize that you're going to struggle no matter what, and that is part of the process. This is like life advice. So if I go philosophical, I think that as a young person in my 20s, I thought my goal was to be happy in life, and that I could have 90% of my life just be smooth and happy and healthy. But now as somebody who's over 50, I realize that it's more like a yin and yang, where you're going to have, half of your life is wonderful and half of your life is pain. And that if you can accept the pain and the demons of that and just say, this is all part of the human experience, then it's like, okay, pain, here you are. This is struggle. I'm in the airport in Delhi, and we've just flown, 15 hours. And then the Indian government decides to start taking away my camera gear before this trip to Nepal. Breathe, calm down, we'll make it work. And we did. And it's great. And just taking those moments of pain and saying it's all right. So when it comes to budgets and those scary things, that's the dark side of the yin and the yang. And like, someone's going to fund this and we're going to figure it out. And the client says, actually, we want it 2 weeks early. And sometimes you just have to say, for me, there's been practical ways to deal with this. When dealing as a freelancer, I had friends who had been freelancers, and they're like, here's a trick for you. Write everything down very, very clearly. Make a contract that says, I will deliver this file into this folder by this date. It'll be this size and this long, and you will pay me by this date and this time into this bank account by this date, and sign this before we start the project. And if there's any changes after this date, I charge this much per hour. On top of that, clients don't have problems anymore when you do that. Versus if you go, hey, let's make a film together. Then they're going to say, hey, I want an extra hour of footage, and now you're stuck. So there are ways to get around this, to be clever and to do good business that makes it clear and it's ethical, and it just, it doesn't have to be hard. It's just clarity. Communication. This industry is about communication. Focus that on your business of just really good, clear, upfront communication. Don't leave things to handshake deals are a bad idea. I watched the first studio that I worked for with the vegetables collapsed because of a handshake deal. Because They made a deal with somebody, an executive. The executive died. That company got bought out by a Chinese firm. The Chinese firm changed the deal, sued that company. They went bankrupt, just like that. So get things in paper, right? Written down. It's much, much better.
Right. But I feel like, it's so difficult in Nepal because even though we make a contract and we do the end of our deal, it's so difficult with clients. I'm sure they have their own problems to deal with. I can give them a benefit of doubt, but it's so bad here that I'm sure everybody can relate to this, it's difficult to get the right budget at first because you know how much work is going to be needed. But then they're like, you're just pressing buttons. Why do you need so much? And then, okay, fine, we'll do it for the sake of art because we want work. And then you end up doing it. It ends up taking so much longer than it should. And then, you're out of your pocket. And then you deliver the work. They use it for whatever they want. And they just disappear. It happens to that. I'm sure it happened to everyone here. So, but I'm sure things are getting better. Let's start focus on the darker side of By the way, it reminded me of my favorite series called AVAAN. We talked about it, right? So just wanted to shout out to that beautiful piece of animation. So, okay, I think I asked that. Oh, one thing that's not here. So let's see. So it's something I deal with it almost every day whenever I keep working on edit project. So I have a pool of brilliant artists. They're like the best, It's on their back that I'm so confident that I'm saying that I can reach out for the world if you guys are with me. And that's why I'm imagining all these kinds of words. But what happens when we're doing things is that they're so good and that they don't know when to stop. They just don't know it. It's because animation is such a thing that you can work like 100 hours and still won't be finished, right? We talked about this yesterday as well. So how do you, as a team leader, as an art director, when you're leading a team of lighting artists and then they just want to keep on adding the light and they don't know when to stop, how do you make them stop and not feel like, you're taking away their soul and being the bad guy in the picture?
This is an interesting question because this is a struggle of artists around the world. And there's many people that want to take advantage of this. They want to take advantage of your passion for your skill and your craft. And they would love to steal this from you. But you have to remember, so this is somebody with a lot of experience here that I can say, and you have a lot of experience too. Remember that you as a human are not your artwork. Your value as a human being is not your job. That is one part of your life, but it is not the whole of your life. Your family, what you do, what do you relax? Do you travel? Do you like to cook? Do you like to eat? Do you like to watch movies? Do you play games? Do you do other things? All of those things make up who you are. So as coming into the industry, it's kind of like if you do running, there's people that do, the Olympics and the 100-meter dash, and they're going to just run as fast as they can. And they're just going to put their whole energy into just running. And then there's people who do a marathon and they have to run. They don't run the same speed. And this industry, if you want to survive, so this is what I tell young artists who, they come into the office and they're so excited and they just want to grow and they want to make the best they can. So it's 6:00 and they say, I just want to stay late and I want to stay till midnight because I know I can make something even better for the client. And they go, this is a marathon. And remember, we're just making cartoons. We're not saving the world. Nobody's dying. Just calm down. Everybody breathe. We can come in tomorrow. The other thing that I have to remind artists is if you work till midnight and you do all of this extra work, you are now lying to a producer who thinks that this is now the normal standard. So every client that comes to you after is going to think that you're going to produce this quality work for this little tiny budget. And that's not the truth. What you want is the truth of this is how you treat artists fairly, and they work for this many hours during the day, and this is the quality of work. I remember a producer coming to me when I started working on The Incredibles, because I had worked at two companies that promoted the idea of there's a couple of toxic ideas in the world. Perfectionism is a really bad thing. Some people wear perfectionism like a badge, and they say, I am a perfectionist and I do everything to the best of my ability. And like, well, you can never be perfect. There is no such thing. Perfection is a lie. There is no perfect project, especially in the arts. What is better is to have endless curiosity and to be able to be like, I can fail. This is okay. I'm going to learn. I'm going to try new things. But the other thing that is very toxic is the idea that your passion should give to the studio endless loyalty, that you should sacrifice your family and your health and your sleep and your life and your eating habits for the project. And that is such a bad idea. I have so many friends that had to leave the industry because they damaged their wrists from being at computers too long, or that they left on permanent disability. They had to go on government checks because they worked 16, 18, 20 hours a day for months at a time. And like, it's not worth it. We're just making cartoons. We're just making films and games. This should be fun. So pace yourself. And it's not fair to the other artists, and it's not fair to the industry for you to do this. We need to all stand together to say, this is the quality. And then if all of the clients come and they're like, every animation studio in town says the same thing, then they'll say, okay, here's the extra money. And it's going to be better for all of you if you stand together.
I think that's very important. Thank you, Jeremy. Part of the reason why we got together and we said we need an alliance, we need AVAAN for this particular thing, because even our studio is struggling, and my fellow, organizers and founding members, their studio is also struggling. I'm sure everybody feels the same way. We're all struggling in the same way, but the way out is to get together and sort of standardize how we work and, the ethics and everything behind it, right?
Right. And if you come up with a clever solution, share that solution. If you find some new trick, like, hey, we can increase our quality and reduce the amount of time we spend on something by doing this new technique, share it with every animation studio in Nepal. Then all of you together they say, the tide raises all the ships, so do that together instead of keeping that as your special secret and being greedy. Share that with each other. And it's just going to make our quality better.
Right? Thanks so much. That's so great. We are definitely trying to break that because we share, by sharing the behind the scenes, how we work, sharing the breakdowns and all that. Because there were a lot of big studios before us, they're amazing artists and amazing people, but they all kept their trade secrets so tight, we would have no access to it. And for the longest of time, that's why there's such a gap in between that, no new artists were being produced because they didn't know where to go and how to learn. And thankfully, we got the internet, we got free software like Blender, and the global community getting so much better that we don't have to rely on the local leaders that don't want to share, right? So that's why, again, I emphasize, that's why AVAAN is here, and I think we can definitely make things better, right?
Exactly.
Something. So following up on that, how can associations like AVAAN, and you can please share your experience with other animation guilds and how they do things and all that, how can associations like AVAAN contribute to building a strong animation and VFX community in Nepal? And the question says, any suggestions from your global experience?
I think we'll go back to Visual Effects Society, the Maya user group meetings, SIGGRAPH, the Game Developers Conference, NAB. There's a lot of different conferences. There's a lot of film festivals. I've been involved in lots of local film festivals. Every one of these events just inspires people and gives you new ideas. Every time that I go, I learn something new. I'm like, I want to try that. That's really inspiring. I think in particular, there was something that inspired me when I went to a small film festival in my town. I lived up in the mountains, and it was a little film festival, and these two women presented a film that was really beautiful. And they had studied in New York City, and they lived in Los Angeles, they had made Hollywood films, and they said, enough. We want to just not have the chaos of all of the big Hollywood industry. We want to make our films. We only make one film every 5 years instead of 2 films a year. And we're just going to be sustainable. And these two women they have a small team, a crew of like 15 people, and they make really beautiful, heartfelt films. They're not big blockbusters. They're not massive films, but you can find them, you can watch them. They did Winter's Bone, the one that we watched when they were presenting. Winter's Bone was the one who discovered Jennifer Lawrence, the actor. That was her first film, and they helped her in her career in Hunger Games and all of that. But their idea was not to be a global dominating billion-dollar industry, Marvel movie, Disney giant thing. Their goal was just sustainable. And it inspired me so much to say, that's what I want. I want to be able to work with a group of friends that have passion and tell us stories, and I don't need to be rich. I just need enough to make the next film and to pay my bills and everyone else pay their bills and make the next film. And so I don't have to have $1 billion to make a film. I can say, okay, $100,000 would be enough for me to say, I can live simple and I can enjoy this and I can breathe and I can go to fun places and we can shoot fun films. And that's my long-term goal with Lighting Mentor, is to help train people, but eventually have enough income that my son and I can start making our own films, and that we can come and travel to places like Nepal and actually tell more stories and work with other friends from the industry and be more independent. And so that's kind of my vision of how that would work.
I'm sure it will work out, and God's blessing you on that.
Thank you.
But that's such a wonderful, privileged situation to have, right? That's a dream.
Right.
You do what you want to do. You don't want to worry about money. You come and you go, I wish life was that easy.
I know. Don't we all? That's what we strive towards. Yes.
And when you were talking, it reminded me of a studio that I followed since long. It's called A24.
Yes, exactly. Look at them now.
Exactly. I mean, they started at such a small studio, but they always focused on the creative vision of the director or the producer that they were working with. You know, they just said, fuck everything else. We just want you to tell a story. And the story they went on to tell became so wonderful that the studio is known by the genre now. Right.
Yes.
They established their own genre, and they went on to win Oscars with Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I was telling you, the directors that I used to follow them since their early career, and I get so inspired by them that, you know, there is a space for people like us, but we just have to keep on being focused, and we have to focus on the story we want to tell, this of that original style that comes from within us. Do you agree?
I totally agree. Completely agree. When I started my company, I thought there's two different business approaches that I could take. So there's no Walmart here, but it's the same as like just big global company, and you produce high quantity, really cheap. And then there's the Apple, you know, philosophy is produce high quality, and it's very expensive, but it's high quality and people will pay for quality. So Apple is one of the wealthiest companies in the world, even though their products are very, very expensive. I mean, it's hard to work with, but Pixar was founded by Steve Jobs, the same guy who started Apple. And their approach was, instead of just producing, 3 films a year that are okay, they're going to just produce 1 film every 2 years that is amazing. Let's make a really high quality product, even if it's expensive, because people will buy it if it's quality. And I think the same thing for films. Like we should have really great stories and nothing else should really matter. We should put that quality first, and the finances will figure themselves out because people will pay for quality. We don't need more terrible animation in the world. There's enough Cocomelon in the world. We don't need any more of that. That's my opinion. I'm sorry if you love Cocomelon.
Hey. So let's make it in personal for the attendees. So what portfolio elements do you believe truly impresses recruiters like the people like Pixar? Because you said you tried it. So what did really work out? Did you build new portfolio? Did you figure out a way to really get into their heads? And so how does it work in the animation and the effects industry?
I want you to, in your portfolio, show that you have those foundational skills. I could show an example. I've shown a bit of this in my courses and online. Maybe I can share it with you afterwards. There's a couple of portfolios to me that I've seen student work that I say, hire that person immediately. They're really good. And then there's all of the other portfolios that are like, they just show that they can press buttons. I'm like, I don't care. They're just doing the same thing over and over. I want to see that you are a storyteller. And it's very obvious. I think all of us have seen the demo reels of I can tell when someone is a passionate storyteller. I can see it in live action films too. It might be low budget cameras, but you can tell when someone puts story first. That's what we're looking for. Especially with technology now being so accessible, we're not looking, story over beauty all the way. That's what studios are looking for.
Nice. That's a wonderful insight. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, I have here. So how do you handle creative block? I'm sure you go through it all the time, or maybe you don't because you're so great, or burnout while working on long and demanding projects.
So people talk about writer's block as if I have no ideas. And I think a different perspective. I think that writer's block is usually that you have too many ideas and you don't know which one to choose. And if you choose one, you're afraid that the other one might have been a better idea. And so my only advice there is to just pick one and then just try it, knowing that you can always do one of the other ideas. And just try something, just do it. Just go for it. Try something great, and this is going to sound depressing, but it is meant to encourage me. You're going to fail, and that's great, because every time you fail, you're learning something. So remember that if you look at lions or tigers, to make this, Nepal, specific, and watch the little baby cubs play, they attack each other and they roll, or dogs, watching young dogs, and they're rolling and they're biting and they're clawing at each other, and we call it play, but they're learning to capture their prey in the future. They're learning a very violent skill that is necessary for their life. So play for us should be failing safely, so play, go out there and fail, intentionally fail. School usually teaches us, don't ever fail. You should have perfect grades. You should get straight A grades. You should be, really amazing on your first try. You should succeed. And if you have bad grades, you're a failure as a person. And that's just not the way the world works. That's not the way life works. Experiment, fail, try something bold, try something crazy. Try making a film, with only one perspective, with a wide angle view from a fish tank that I heard about you worked on. Yep. That's great. You try this, you try something new. Let me see. Let me pull myself back. What was the question again?
I got wrong. See, what was the question, guys? Creative block. Yeah.
Creative block. Okay. So I think that the more you just commit and you try something, you'll realize that that creative block kind of disappears, and it becomes more natural. And you just say, I'm going to just keep going, even if it's bad, and it's okay. And then it gets easier every time. The more you do, the easier it is to accept. Like if you have 3 pieces in your portfolio and someone criticizes it, it means a lot. It hurts because it's like a third of your portfolio. If somebody criticizes your work and you have 2,000 pieces in your portfolio, you're just like, whatever. I'll just make another. I'll make another project, whatever. I can learn from this. It's nothing. It doesn't stop me. Burnout is a bigger one, and burnout comes from having boundaries. I think that you as an artist need to learn your limits. Where art is a lot like breathing. There's breathing in and breathing out. Breathing out is creating something into the world. Breathing in is watching other movies, is in being inspired by other artists, by playing games, by going into nature. Whatever gives you energy, you need to make sure that you are breathing in enough. And sometimes Instagram and YouTube is not actually breathing in. It's actually just kind of holding your breath and doing nothing. So be careful not to just spin into a little art vortex, but true breathing in, things that inspire you, that makes you want to create, and then breathing out the things that you're actually making and creating. Find your balance as early as you can. Realize how fast you work and what your limits are. Like I learned that once I've gone over 10 hours of work, I can no longer be productive. So I have to tell every producer that I work with, I'm like, you may ask for me to work 12 hours, but you're going to get less work out of me in 12 hours than you will in 10. It will be better for you to have me work 10 hours and then go get sleep. Because if I work 12 hours, 15 hours, 18 hours, I've done it. I know it's not good. I'll start making mistakes the next day. I'll be tired. I'll be angry. I'm not going to be nice anymore. Nice Jeremy goes away and just sad, angry Jeremy comes in. And this is not, you don't want to meet this Jeremy. So trust me, when 10 hours is up, I'm going home. But I will make sure that during those 10 hours, I can produce as much as I can. In fact, maybe not even 10 hours. How about 6 hours of really quality work and maybe 2 hours to interact with the people around me? An 8-hour day, I can do an 8-hour day, and that will make me the most efficient person. And you have to find your balance as quickly as possible with your team, and then realize where you have a lack of skill. If you're really slow at your job, you're going to have to learn from other people to say, how do you do that job twice as fast as me? Teach me. Share, again, with this industry. If somebody's, this is something we were talking about in the studio this morning. I know how to paint fast because I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of paintings. I can do a painting in 10 minutes that other people take 5 hours to do. It came from experience and learning from other people who know how to paint fast. And I asked them, like, how do you do that? They do paintings on their lunch break that are like, wow, that's incredible. And I tried to learn from them and they show me things. So share with one another. And that also keeps your creativity really high, because now instead of spending 15 hours on a single painting and you're exhausted, if you only spend 1 hour, then you're like, I feel really great about that. Look what I did in 1 hour. Woohoo, I can go have some Momo. You know, this is great. You know, I can go home and relax a little bit because I can do my job well, and that helps motivate you for the next day in the new project.
And I think it's a lot about establishing a healthy and productive work environment altogether.
Okay.
But then again, it sort of goes into the gray area when, again, you don't have enough resources or budget, but you still want to tell the story. And then passion sort of, comes into the front and drives the vehicle. So how do you, again, balance it out? Or do you just like passion drive you all the way through and you don't care about burnout? But do you still, sort of take a step back when you don't really have the budget and resources to pull it off?
I remember watching, have you ever seen the movie Spy Kids? Robert Rodriguez?
Yeah.
He intentionally took his budget and cut it in half because he wanted his team to be as creative as possible. And because the budget was small, it forced the team to communicate more about how they were going to achieve. Like the size of their green screen stage was really small. So any of the work that they did, they had to be very creative. And he just liked doing that with his teams. He didn't need to. He had lots of money, but it was more fun of a process. So I think about with a small animation team, you have a client that comes and asks for something that's impossible. To me, part of the fun, it's almost like a game. You all sit at a table and like, okay, this seems impossible. How are we going to solve this? And as long as your team respects one another and you know that you have each other's backs, you can solve that problem and say, well, let's turn that into a matte painting and let's turn this into a more simple technique, and we can use this new tool and maybe we can produce something that looks really fancy, but it's all just magic and smoke and mirrors, because this is what film is anyway. We can cut around this. We can just do that with sound effects. The Alfred Hitchcock style, like you never see the monster. You just hear it and anticipate it. And that can tell just as good of a story. I think that's important.
So talking about work culture, can you share a bit about the best thing that we could learn from Pixar in your experience that we can apply to small studios like ourselves? And also, has there been any situation where you had a creative discrepancy with your seniors, and how did you deal with it, and how the work culture sort of helped you in that situation?
So I've worked for every kind of studio that there is. I had one boss that was just a horrible, horrible person. And I won't say which company it was or who it was, but he actually said, I am a genius, I am a savant, and I know better than the rest of the world, and you should just listen to me. And he would yell at people, and he was angry, and he was inconsistent, and he was just a horrible narcissist. Imagine Donald Trump as a animation director, and that's who he was. And I hated that job. The only way that I could deal with this was, again, to have my own boundaries and to learn to present things to him in a very, very clear manner. Do you want this or this? Give him 2 options. Yes or no. That's it. Instead of saying, tell me what to do, because he was terrible at that. So we had to learn to adapt our culture to his narcissism. And it was hard. It was painful every day. And I decided to not stay at that studio. I moved and went to a different company. And then I've worked with other people that have different personalities. Some of them difficult. Some of them are, there's a lot of egos in Hollywood. But then Pixar was the best company that I've ever worked for. And I think a lot of it comes down to the person who was in charge of the studio, Ed Catmull. Ed Catmull was the man who invented computer animation. The very first computer animation in the entire world was done in 1969, and it was his project of a human hand doing this. That's it. You can see an animation. It's really simple. It's really low resolution, but he did that in university in 1969. He wanted to be a Disney animator, but he was more technical and he wasn't artistic. And so he founded Pixar instead, and he changed the world. When they did Toy Story, he realized, I don't just need to build a film, I need to build a film studio. And he was such a clever person. So there's people like John Lasseter was also there. So Steve Jobs, Ed Catmull, John Lasseter, the three of them created Pixar. Steve Jobs was the money, John Lasseter was the drama and the stories, and Ed Catmull was the culture. So here's a person who is a billionaire, who drives a regular car, he wears regular clothes, and he met with every single new employee at Pixar. My first week of work, I had lunch with him, and he sat down. I'm like, I'm having lunch with the man who invented Pixar. And he just said, okay, I want to tell you all the things we've done wrong, and I want to tell you that we're all human, and I'm going to tell you that I will probably make mistakes, and I will probably hurt you, and it's not intentional, but you need to know that we are just human beings making films together. And this is what he did with every individual that joined the company, all almost 2,000 people that joined. And my respect for him went so high because he was just so humble. And they made choices like small choices, little things. And these are the things that we can learn in studios. So instead of having a big, long table where the head of the studio is at the end of the table with authority, he changed the conference rooms to have round tables so that there's no one person who has authority and everyone is equal, because in this space, we're all creators. So when we would go to lighting reviews or animation reviews, we would go into a theater like this and they turn out all the lights and no one could see each other. And they would ask, and like, does anyone have ideas to make this better? And you might have someone who is an intern who gives an idea that changes a Pixar film. And you could also have somebody with 40 years experience who would change things, but they kept it where it was a bunch of equal people all respecting each other. And I was like, this is incredible. This is really amazing. A smaller, more practical thing. There's two things that were very practical you can take to your studios. And this is one that I shared with you all yesterday. It's the idea, we called them a CBB, a could be better. So when we are taking notes for our client or we're taking notes for our project, you as an artist are sharing something. As a director or as a producer, you come up with two different lists of notes. You come up with the things that have to be changed. The story is broken if you don't change these things. These are the things that the artist must go back and fix. And then there's the CBBs, the could be better. It's a separate list of items that like, we would really like this, but we can ship the project even with, if you don't do those things, it's going to be okay. But boy, it would be really nice to add a little bit of extra polish and sparkle over here, and maybe a little bit of unicorns in the background rumming or something like that, but you don't have to do that. That saved us so much time and money, and it also gave kind of a priority to the artists, because if you just give them a list of 37 things to do and say, finish this before 6 o'clock and it's 5 o'clock, they're never going to be able to do them. Or if you say, just finish at least these 3 things, and then this list of another 20 things are the CBBs, the could be betters. And then the last one, it sounds like a small thing, but this saved our entire studio so much time and energy. When you have a meeting scheduled from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., do not ever go past 4 p.m. If you are in the middle of a big creative idea and you think that let's just stay in the meeting and keep going, it will snowball effect the entire studio. So if you have, let's say you have 10 people in a meeting, the meeting goes long, and you had a plan for your day, and you were going to do these things like, okay, the meeting's from 3 to 4, then from 4 till 6, I'm going to go answer emails and I'll do some art. Once that meeting goes long, all 10 people now have less time in their day, and it spirals into overtime and chaos. Versus if you say, no matter what, we end this call at 4 o'clock, so let's be efficient with what we're talking about. And our good producers will come in and say, you have 10 minutes left. You may make sure that you're getting to the things that are important. Don't spin in circles around the color of the cookies. You should talk about the story. And that one thing at Pixar changed. We almost never did overtime once they changed that rule, because we were focused on what was efficient. And I've tried to follow that with my apprenticeship meetings. We're like, we end at noon, no matter what.
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir. Jeremy, and very disciplined,
you got to do what you got to do when you want to do it, time, discipline, and everything. And I feel the most important was the CBB method, where you give artists the choice to be emotionally involved. They'll do it if they want to do it, right? It's not necessarily you have to do it. Most of the time, they end up doing it because they want to do it. Right?
Yes.
And then they get emotionally involved in the project.
Exactly.
So great, thank you. But I think we can all go back and try this to our studio system. So I have a last question from my list, and then we open the floor. So if you're starting your career today, right, what would you do differently based on the current state of the industry?
Do I get to know everything that I know now? I think it's a hard time to start in this industry. I think for most young people, when you see YouTube and the way the world is going, the current politics and economy and AI, it's really scary. It's really scary to start. So I feel like the best way to succeed right now would be to connect with people who have experience, and to create together. I remember I was involved in a film festival, and one advice that someone gave was, don't try to work for Steven Spielberg. Don't try to work for George Lucas. Don't try to work for these people. They're old. They're going away soon. Work with the people around you, because you are the future Steven Spielbergs. You are the future George Lucases. They're the people sitting right beside you right now. Work with them and make something amazing. I'm like, oh, that's so true. So like being able to find people to collaborate with to help you along your way, I think that would be the only thing that you could do is starting into this industry would be to let me find somebody with a little bit of experience and learn from them, and then find some friends around me that can create something together that has as much passion and energy and good story in it as possible. And then the doors will start opening for you as you go along. You meet one person, opportunities come, suddenly you're hiring a friend, and then they're hiring a friend, and then they're connected to the film industry and they have some budget, and before you know it, you'll have a portfolio like this, and you're like, wow, how did I get here? This is crazy.
I guess we're definitely on the right track then.
I think so.
We have an amazing mentor teaching us and sharing life experiences, and we are getting together and we are sort of sharing ideas and all that. So thank you so much, Jeremy. That's all the questions I have. Can we give a round of applause for him, please? All right, so now let's open the floor. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, and trust me when I say this, so he's a huge person, but then he has an even bigger heart. So, you won't mind sharing, you won't mind you picking his brain, getting, personal questions. So, of course, there are some criteria, I guess, but you can feel free. This is a safe space, and he's here to help, and he's open about it. So please, did I say that right?
Yes. Yes.
And do we have another mic? Okay, the mic is on the floor. You can just wait your out, and then our volunteer will come to you. If you want to ask the question in Nepali, if you feel comfortable, I can translate for him.
Perfect.
Ace, come on. There is so.
First of all, thank you very much, Jeremy Vickery, for sharing us your insights on your journey and your career. It's very inspiring and very motivational. Thank you so much. And the Dhaka topi really suits you. It's looking really great. And I see that you are on hiking boots.
Yes.
Yes. So that means you must have been to some mountain places in Nepal trekking, right? So I wanted to know, because me and my wife, we do a lot of hiking and trekking as well, travel around Nepal, this beautiful country. A lot of time when we do trekking and hiking, we get inspiration and ideas. So is this the same for you as well? Just curious.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and where I live, these are my normal shoes. These are not Nepal shoes. This is what I wear every day, all the day, because I live in a mountain town. So my son and I do walks every single morning, and we do long walks and hikes. One time I was visiting the place, and I just started walking, and I was like, I just want to see the next mountain. And then I was walking and see the next mountain. In the end, I walked 24 kilometers by accident, and I wore out my shoes. just because I'm so inspired by locations. So for me, that is breathing in for me is nature and mountains and fresh air. And so I'm always hiking. I wear all the way through my shoes. Like, you see the back of the shoe, it's down to the foam, like I've worn through the rubber, and I just love it so much. So yes, I agree. We were very fortunate. We didn't get a lot of time to do long treks on this journey, but we did get to go and see Everest and Amadablam and, all the big mountains. It's like one of those goals in life that I may never get an opportunity to go again. And it costs some extra money to do it, but be able to see that with my own eyes. And it's just so inspiring to see. And I'm just so impressed. Nepal is just such a beautiful place. It's amazing.
Yes, truly. Thank you.
By the way, Suchan and Sachina, they run this YouTube channel, Nepal 360. That's right?
Yes.
And they travel all the time. I am so envious of them. They go on extreme places on their amazing bike. Oh my God, you got to check it out. I didn't know they were the same people behind Nani and Babu, and I love Nepal 360 and the way he narrates. I think you're going to love their channel.
See how young they look? And I know they have, 18 years experience? Part of this is from exploring. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next, guys. Very building yet.
Hi, Jeremy. I'm Ayush. I'm not a VFX artist or animator. I'm a writer, primarily, working with Anil as well. So my question is, working at Pixar, what would you summarize as the secret of storytelling in Pixar? And when you're going out and looking for inspiration for stories to tell, what attracts you and what are you looking for?
Storytelling. I do a little bit of writing. My son does a lot more. It would be nice for you to talk afterwards as well. But seeing what makes Pixar do really great films is iteration, trying new things again and again. There are many animation studios in the world that are very successful. The thing that I personally think that makes Pixar different, or at least in the past, when I was at Pixar, I feel like I was there during the golden age, the best films. It was just so many hits. And the thing that made it different was that they spent the time working on the story before they got into the technology. So they would write a screenplay, and then they would storyboard the entire film. And they would play back the film and then see, is it, because there is a difference between a screenplay and an actual film. And so if you can do the storyboards and plan the whole thing out and hit play and have audio and have music, then you can say, well, maybe I don't like that character. Maybe I need to like that character more. So they would change the scene, and they would do it with simple drawings. And then they would play it back again. We'll change the scene again. And then we'll change it again, and we'll change it again. So it takes 4 to 5 years to make a Pixar movie. And in the first year, they can have the entire film done as storyboards. And then they keep changing it over the years until you have a really, really, really good story. One of the things that I think is fascinating, the numbers at Pixar, when I say storyboards. So you draw a storyboard, and it's kind of like drawing what you're going to see in the frame. And I ask the question, and I'll ask the room your guesses. I'll ask you first. How many storyboards do you think are drawn for one of the Pixar films?
Oh.
So it's a 90-minute movie.
90-minute, even if you do 12 frames a second, maybe 1 frame a second, maybe?
Well, not even a frame per second. It's so a storyboard just needs to show what the shot is.
Okay.
So there's on an average of about 1,500 shots in a Pixar film. So have a guess for how many storyboards are actually drawn?
45,000.
45,000? 150,000 is the actual number. And that's because we try something, we fail, we throw it away, we do it again. We try something, we fail, we do it again, and we just keep doing that. So you learn to get really fast at storyboarding before you ever do 3D modeling and the things that take a long time. And that's what helps the story. So the screenwriter, the editor, and the storyboard artists all are very, very, very close. So that way we can get your influence and the artist's influence to solve all of the puzzles, to make sure that the jokes are funny and that the emotion is intense and that you like the right characters and you hate the right characters and you feel all of the emotions. And I think that is what makes a good storytelling team. To separate out a writer just writes and then is not involved anymore may work, or it may not work. I think that is what happens in a lot of film industry. It's like the curse of accidental success. Maybe it's a good script, maybe it's not. But if the writers are involved with the editors and the director and the art director and the storyboard team, you get a much better project. Because then the storyboard artist will be like, hey, you've got a problem with your scripts. You haven't solved this. So then the writer goes, oh, yeah. Okay, well, then you solve that and I'll solve this. And we'll work together, and a group of 5 or 10 people can make the story even better. Does that answer your question?
That was very insightful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a follow-up question to this. So you experience, and Cesar, please, you can answer this too, right? How often do you find screenplays and story following the story structures that are available, like a hero's journey, obviously the cat or whatnot? There are so many structures to follow, right? And do you think that it's important to follow it, or do you just go with the flow? And Cedar, of course, the plot process, and Jeremy, you can add on to that what Pixar and other studios do.
I mean, for me personally, I would say that it doesn't necessarily matter too much to follow a specific rule book, just whatever is the best and whatever connects the best. It's about feeling less than about rules. If it feels good, then I think it is good.
And G. Right. That's Cedar, everybody.
Yes. One of the things that I always encourage artists to do, talking about rules, and the judgment shouldn't come from just everyone in this room. Like, if you're doing an illustration and you want to see if this is a beautiful, successful illustration, don't ask another artist. Show it to somebody who's not an artist, and show them, like, an average frame of film is only 4 seconds long. Well, not frame, an average shot of film is only 4 seconds long. Sometimes there's longer films. So if you have an illustration, say, okay, I have this on my iPad or on my computer. Look at it for 4 seconds, and then take it away and say, what did you just see? And if they can tell you what you wanted in your story, then you have succeeded. If they are confused and didn't know what they looked at, then you failed. The same with your sequences. Is your story good? Show it to a non-artist. Show it to a non-filmmaker. Show it to your grandmother. Show it to some kid. Show it to somewhere else. And if they laugh and they cry and they feel emotion, then you've written your screenplay well and you've done your story well. It almost doesn't matter whether we as an artists group, make something that is so artful and amazing to us. If the other people don't enjoy it, then we'll never be able to survive. We won't eat. We'll just make art and we'll starve. So we have to make things that connect to as many human beings as possible.
That's so great. Thank you. Next question, please.
How much money do you make? Because it matters. And for you, you have I think a lot of people from Nepal might think that you have a disadvantage being from Nepal, but you actually have a major advantage over, like for me in the United States, to rent my house, I pay $2,800 every month just to live in my house. The costs are really, really, really high in the United States. So for me to survive is like 10 times the amount of the salary of a Nepali person. But if I make a film and it makes $100 million, great, that's really good for me. But if you make a film and it makes $100 million, it's even better for you. Your money goes so much farther here. So if you can make films for a less budget than it costs us to make films, you win. On the global stage, you just have to tell stories that are good enough to reach the world market. If you make a film that works in China and it works in India and it works in Nepal, and then hopefully also works in Western countries, your profit margin is so much higher that you could really, really benefit. Your sustainability, like what it takes for you to succeed and to be sustainable to make your next film, will be a lot less than it takes for me. I have to make a lot of money to just survive in the United States. It's a crazy expensive place. Like most of the houses in Los Angeles, I saw a house for sale. It was the cheapest house I've ever seen for sale in Los Angeles. The whole house would fit between this chair and your chair and on the screen right there. It was 300 square feet, not even 200 square feet. So it's just the size of this. There's no place to park your car. There's this much space between the house next to you. There's a hospital right next door and an emergency room, so you'll hear sirens all night long, and a factory on the other side of, and it cost $1 million. It was the cheapest I've ever seen. And I'm like, no, this is stupid. Why do I want to live here? This is not right. This doesn't feel right. This is not sustainable. So this industry makes billions upon billions of dollars. And, the Pixar films would make, Cars was the most successful Pixar film. Not from the amount of money that the film made, but from the amount of money that the merchandise and the toys made. Selling children's diapers with Cars logos on them made $2 billion. More than the film made, which is crazy. The little toys that they sell have made so much money. So there's a lot of potential if you make a project that, I don't like to think about money so much, but I figured I would answer that question because some people might ask that question. So the actual U.S. cost and the actual U.S. salaries, it's different in every country where you go around the world. But if you were to move to the United States and get hired at Pixar right now, let's say as a lighting artist, starting salary would probably be $100,000 a year for an entry-level position. If you have experience, it could be $150,000 a year. But you're also living in San Francisco where the poverty rate is anything less than $120,000 a year. So it's hard to live there, but that gives you, just since we're an open and honest conversation of the room, that's a topic that I think usually people want to know. Like, can I actually survive as an artist? I'm like, yes, you can. Games is really good too. The games industry is all over the world. There's a lot more game studios outside of cities, and games make more money than film now. Games is a bigger industry than film. So if you want to work in games, there's a lot of the same skills, and there's a lot of money there as well, which is really fun.
It reminds me of a thought process that I've been living by, and I want to challenge as I grow in my career, that, living in Nepal is such an advantage because Nepal is a country, one unit of a country just like United States is, right? And if I like to rise and shine from Nepal, it's so much easier for me to rise globally, right? In the global stage. I'm still just, somebody else can be from USA, but then they'll have to fight so many people to be there. But so for me, being in Nepal is such an opportunity. I don't have to fight as much, but then I can still represent my country there.
Right. Exactly.
It's a wonderful thing, and I want to challenge this as I grow. I know that's why I'm imagining stories that go on global stage, because we talked about it, because it's so much easier for us, and we also have a sympathy value. Most people, like I told you, try to sell poverty porn. That's a thing. People literally say that filmmakers station, they try to get funds and all that by selling the poverty in Nepal, the mountains so tough and all that. But come on, we can tell stories that are fascinating to everyone.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be the so poor and so sad all the time, because our life is sad. Enough sadness is there. But at least make movies that makes you happy, or at least escape from reality.
Relationships with people. I agree. Yes.
Totally. And also we have amazing artists here like Ashraf and other Suswan in the back. I see you guys, and these guys make amazing. I forgot Zikunan. Susan, right? Right. And also amazing artists that are working for games like Horizon, characters, and other game that you guys shared. I didn't remember, but it was so cool that they're staying here in Nepal and they're making hero props and characters for global games from here. So I just wanted to give us can you just give a round of applause for amazing people that are working for global industry from Nepal and earning money in dollars and giving back to the country and economy. So
it's great. Yeah, we should definitely take advantage of world economies. Who knows? With the things that are happening in the United States, we might be the ones that are really poor very soon, too. We've got a crazy person leading our country now, so that's my opinion.
We'll outsource to you.
Yes, there.
Question says, you guys can ask about games or the
So in a small team, somebody are good at fundamentals and others are technically good, like pressing the buttons, right? So how do you find the balance there? Or, when is a good time to say, okay, this is not working out?
So I like the quote from Ed Catmull, technology inspires art, art inspires technology. The best that I've seen, sometimes in a studio, it's almost like you have two cultures. It's like, Israel and Palestine. And you just like against each other all the time. And you're like, technology, art, and we hate each other. And it's always in conflict with one another. But what you want is to realize that you can help each other. So the technical people could write scripts and they could make software that'll make life easier for making art. And the artists can inspire the simplicity of what can be designed technically. So one thing that I really appreciated at Pixar is that us artists had to learn some technology. I had to take a Python class. I failed miserably, but I respect all of the programmers when I did that. And every single person had to learn technology. We also had engineers who every 7 years or every 5 years, they would have to stop being an engineer and go be an artist for a year. So they would work on a film and they would have to use the tools that they made, and they'd actually have to create the art. And then they would be like, oh, I see what you're saying. That is painful. No, let's fix that. And so there was like a mutual respect with each other. And then you didn't feel like you were fighting each other. You felt like you were fighting the problem of the project and that you were a united team. So being able to make friends and to be able to try and do things, this is where I encourage everyone in a studio to try painting and drawing together, no matter what, because it's something that, can work together. Also, people should do technical tasks. People, everyone should try, like, if you're a filmmaker, you should try a little bit of editing. You should play with the camera. You should do some acting. The same, you should do a little bit of programming. You should experience what it's like with game design, and try all these different things just to have that mutual respect. There is a great story also from Google. There's a study, if you look up the Google efficiency study, several years back, Google has tens of thousands of employees around the world. And sometimes they had teams that were really efficient. Sometimes they had teams that were really inefficient. So they asked a company to come in and say, what is it that makes an efficient team? Is it the amount of money that they make? Is it about, do they have to dress in suits, or do they dress in t-shirts? Or is it the way the office is? Is it, colorful spaces? Is it that they have food? And after a whole year of study, they found there was only one thing that made an efficient team, and that was psychological safety. That if you felt safe with your team, that you could fail and know that they weren't going to bully you, they weren't going to give you a hard time, that you knew that your team had your back and you have their team, then you would be efficient. Everything else didn't matter. Everything else was like, whatever. You can be underpaid, overpaid, whatever, as long as you knew that your team was together and you were safe. And I think about that a lot, because like every team that I create and every team that I'm on, I want to make sure that everyone, no matter what your position, if you're somebody who works in the kitchen at a studio, or if you're someone who's a director, everyone gets respected equally, and then you'll have a really efficient team. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, there's something. Then this is.
Hello, Jeremy.
Hello.
Okay, my question is pretty simple, but it's a bit difficult. If you are about to create new story, think of new story, writing new story, then what would be your first initial phase? Because nowadays it's very easy to get distracted or influenced by so many things. So what would be your initial phase? Is it you are inspired by your travel experience or life journeys, or what would be the initial phase? How do you write the new story in original way?
I'm gonna answer this, and I'd like my son to answer this too, because we do a lot of story ideas together. When we do our walks every single day, we're usually just talking about stories all the time and writing scripts. I find, and this is a good question for you as well, you're a storyteller. I mean, most people in here are storytellers. It's more like I get inspired by something that I see, and I have 80% that is from real world and 20% that is something unique and new. So like hearing a story of like, here's something that I do with artists is I encourage them to come up with story moments. And the story moment, like for an illustration, Like, we're going to learn to do art. So instead of just drawing a tree on a hill or an anime girl by a window, let's come up with a story moment. And it just has to have something that's kind of fun, that is a unique twist. And so we play games all the time of like coming up with story ideas. Like, let's take something normal and let's add a twist into it. And let's see if this inspires us to create a story. So this is a story that I often give to my artists to help them. It's like, okay, you need to do a painting and it's a yoga class. And there's a whole bunch of people doing yoga together and there's an instructor who's on a little stage. You're going to have to draw this and you're going to have to design. Is it interior? Is it in a garden? Is it, is it on a mountaintop? But here's the twist. This is the 20% that's different. None of these are humans. They're all animals. So you've got a rhinoceros and you've got a giraffe and you've got an elephant and you've got rabbits and mice and they're all trying to do yoga. But the yoga instructor is a snake and it has put itself into this beautiful geometric pattern and is like, do this. And the look on the faces of all of the characters is just like, nope. That's a story moment that could inspire you, is just adding that little bit of like, okay, they're not humans, they're animals. And can you imagine that as an illustration in your portfolio would be so much better than just a hill with a tree on it. If you can learn to paint those type of scenes, I'm always looking for those type of ideas. And those ideas sometimes turn into bigger stories. So we are currently, I showed a little bit of that. You see the flower characters that I had in my presentation. That was an idea that he had. And I'm going to have him share just kind of how that came about, because it's fascinating.
I'm actually not going to talk about the flower creature because that one was just, I wanted a plant creature. I don't think there was much of a story to that. But I was working on a short film a while back, and we had this flashlight, and it had like a mode where you could like open it and it would be like a lamp, and it was just cool. It looked like a neat sci-fi battery. And that inspired an entire 25-minute short film that was like this big sci-fi project, biggest film project I've ever worked on. And it just started from just a little lamp thing that I saw. And I thought that was really fun, how much it just evolved. It's like, oh, what if this battery powered like a whole sun? And then like people were trying to steal it. And then there was like the moral dilemma of like, if you steal this battery, you get a bunch of money, but you hurt a lot of people in the way. And it was like this really fascinating project that we worked on. And that came from just seeing a cool little flashlight.
I think sitting down and playing games as well, like story games, you say, okay, you think of a really unique character, you think of a really unique environment, and then you think of a really interesting action. Merge them together and see what happens. And sometimes it's fun and it makes the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard of, but it's a fun way to just keep that creative energy, like that inner child. I think too often we think too seriously. We should be very playful, and that will help to give ideas. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's that. One thing that really helps me is that I have a inner voice that talks all the time, and I try not to shut it up. Say I'm watching a movie, and then my mind keeps on guessing all different endings. What's going to happen in the next, and it doesn't happen. But then I'm like, oh, it's a story there. Something like that. So it just helps me. This I would want to add. Okay, next question.
Hello again, Jeremy.
Hello.
I just wanted to ask, every artist has their own style, their own, you might say, identity. So I would like to ask, what about the studio's identity, right? There are clients coming in asking for Pixar style animation. You see a lot of indie animation nowadays, indie studios coming with their own styles. So how important is it for a studio to have their own identity and style? And how do you, artists evolve and they don't find the style at the beginning, right? They struggle a lot, and then Eureka, they find the style and they stick to it. So how do studios navigate towards finding their own identity? That's what.
So let me answer this way. There's two different types of artists as well. There's fine artists, where style is the most important thing. So if you're going to be painting for galleries, you want a style that you stay with, where you say, this is the Andy Warhol style. This is the you can find any world artists, this is that look. They always do this look. But as a production artist, you want to be able to do more than that, because I've worked on zombie games and on Pixar films and on Legos and on my style has to change, like super realistic Fallout TV series, super playful, cartoony, bubbly, dancing vegetables, and it kind of changes. So most artists in film industry actually don't want to have their own style. YouTubers do. So it's often, I think YouTube and Instagram and TikTok gives a slightly distorted view of the art world, where you think that every artist should have their own style. And I don't really agree with that. I think as a filmmaker, you need to be adaptable to do anything. It's kind of like music. There are certain musicians that write their own music. So you've got Lady Gaga has a style. Billie Eilish has a style. There's certain people, when you hear Elton John, when you hear the music, it's like, that is an Elton John song. I can hear it in his voice. It is his style. But the musicians that he hires need to be able to just see the music and play, now you're classical music, now you're rock music, now you're hip hop, now you're, it can just change a lot. And so 90% of studio artists need to be able to do all of the styles. And you need to adapt to the styles, which probably sounds scary. You need to be able to be good at all of them. And that way, even working at Pixar has a bigger style, but every project's a little different. Cars is very different than Brave. And we were always happy. At the end of Cars, at the end of Cars 2, all of us were like, okay, we're done with Cars. We want monsters. We want weird, we want bears in Scotland. That would be really great. And then they said, we're doing Cars 3 because Cars made so much money, and the whole studio just kind of went, no more Cars, please. But it makes us so much money. And we're like, yes, but we're artists. We want something new, something fresh. So if you're going to pursue an artist as a YouTuber or as a, fine art, then you do have to find your style. But otherwise, you need to practice as many different styles as you can. I don't know if that answered your question.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jeremy, can you add on the things you shared to us about shape language? I think that's a very important and very interesting insight into your stories, and how, you can still...
Cinematic language is if there's cameras on tripods with wide-angle lenses, or cameras that are handheld, or cameras that have zoom lenses. That is something that you choose as a director of photography. Same with design language. So for The Incredibles, the beginning of the film, we had a color language and we had a design language. The beginning of The Incredibles is bright and saturated, almost too saturated. The sunsets are orange, and the colors are really strong because it is Mr. Incredible's nostalgia. It is his glory days. This is when he was a superhero and when he loved life. And then he stops being a superhero and it's present day and everything turns gray. At which point everything also turns square. So he's in an office and even the clocks are square. All the things that you think are round are square. And his boss, his head is square. And then as he gets back into superhero work, when he goes to the island, the robots are round. The Omni droid is round. And it's in a direct contrast to everything of the world. Now, most people won't be able to say, oh yeah, I like the square versus round in The Incredibles. Once you hear it, you can't unsee it. You're like, oh, there it is. But it's a subtle design language that helps enhance the story. Same with at the end of the film. The Incredibles is really about a midlife crisis. So for people that are in their 40s, The Incredibles really makes sense of my family life and my work life. Which do I want to put attention to? So the end of the film, it's both. Balance. So the beginning is super saturated, the middle is desaturated, in the end, the color is just right. And the cinematography slowly blends to when he's doing superhero work with his family. That's when everything kind of comes together. And that was a style choice made by the art director and by the director of photography and the director together. And you really have deep conversations of how do we enhance the storytelling through cinematography? Those are the more subtle, advanced skills that I think are fun because no one will notice that. They'll just feel it. They'll just say, it's just so beautiful. Like Miyazaki There is a feeling to a Miyazaki film that is just so beautiful. Like, what is that? And as a team, we could break it down to say the watercolors of the background, the lack of contrast, and the softness to this, and the way the animation is done. You can look at studios Arcane and looking at what Fortiche does is very different from Disney. It's very different from Miyazaki. It has a style and a shape language that Fortiche does individually. It's more like the studio has a voice, and you as an artist have to blend into that voice and learn to do the collective culture.
So in that, is obviously about, say, you're leading a team of artists, right, who are responsible for defining the style of the project. But then, like Alex pointed out, each artist can have their own individual identity and a style that they're comfortable with. So how do you navigate about bringing them all towards the style that you want? Again, like I asked earlier, without feeling manipulative and without being the bad guy.
If you're the director or the art director of a film, you need to discover what it is. What is that shape language? It is so important for you to be able to not only know it in your subconscious, but also to be able to speak it into, to make people understand. So you have them try drawing in your style. And when they fail, you need to know it so well that you can be like, no, it's a little more like this. Like in my apprenticeship, I'm working with a bunch of artists with a bunch of different styles, and I have to kind of guide them towards the direction that I want them to go. That is the job of a director, and that is the job of an art director, is to be the person that takes all of those visions and kind of compresses it into one path. It's a hard job. And you need to realize with your team too, to go, this person's really struggling with this. This person really gets it. Okay, you go help that person. You go help that person. Facilitate mentorship with the team to make sure that they're all going, no, this is how we do this. And don't worry, you will struggle on this project, but the next one, the person who's doing really good on this one is probably going to struggle and you're going to succeed. So you're going to switch places. And the more projects you do, the easier it gets to say, okay, just tell me what the design language is, what the cinematography language is. It's super high contrast and dark. Like the movie, The Batman, the new one, is so dark. I mean, it's hard to see on your TV, right. There's just so that's a look, for that film. And everyone had to just kind of work with that look. I think it was a little too dark, but there was some beautiful parts in it. But versus Stranger Things goes with like the 1980s type of feel, and you can see everything, and there's mystery lights floating in the air like they did in the 1980s, like from E.T. And it just is a nostalgia from the 1980s, and like that's all. Those are fun conversations.
So I'm gonna ask you about if there are any questions today.
Hello, Mr. Jeremy. Here. So first of all, welcome to Nepal.
Thank you.
And I want to mention that we learned a lot of things from you today. And another thing I want to mention about, I had a great chance to work with one of your colleagues, Mr. Gordon, back in 2019.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yeah, you know that, right? Mr. Gordon? From Andrew Gordon.
Andrew Gordon, yes.
Yeah. So I learned a lot from him. So in coming future, I really want to work with you too. And I want to learn from you. And I heard about, in a lot of video from Mr. Gordon, I heard that in a Pixar, they have a secret, wine bar.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Do you know about that?
They don't have a secret wine bar.
Oh,
they have. Pixar is kind of weird. So it seems like people in Nepal like to drink as well. Pixar has more bars in their studio than any other company in the world. So there's 27 different bars inside the studio. So every department has their own little bar that we get together. So there's a lighting bar and there's 3 in animation. The animators love to drink, but they love to get together and to socialize. And then there are secret areas. Part of what makes Pixar so unique is that they want you to feel safe and you want you to be as creative as possible. So there's a lot of cultural things that happen in the studio. So when you come into an office, they don't just say, here's your desk, here's a computer. They're like, here's your desk, make it your own. So every animator, it almost becomes like a challenge to outdo the other animators. So two of the young animators turned their office into a 1940s crashed airplane in a jungle. And they had the sound of crickets and smoke machines. And they built, you know, like the cockpit, and they had posters on the wall from scientists. And like, it was really bizarre. But when you go to their desk, you're like, this is a very creative environment. You know, another animator, you know, ripped a hole in the wall and then put Bruce the shark, you know, sticking through the wall. And like, it's just crazy. The lighting department we built in our bar, we made it look like an old European street. So we did all the work, but the studio actually gave us $2,000 to say, go be creative. Here's your money to make your space your own space. And it made our team bond together in unique ways. And again, in Pixar at that time had $5 billion. So they could spend a couple of $1,000s to make things really good for the studio, but they made sure that the lighting and that the atmosphere and that we had good chairs and that we were really comfortable so that when we got into our creative work, we could be extra creative. So yeah, Andrew Gordon was, you know, involved in a lot of that, a lot of the animators. It was a really unique, wild environment. I've never worked at a studio quite like that since. Hey, you have a question here too?
So, oh no, this mic.
Here comes another mic.
Like you brought the topic saying how much did you earn? Like my question was, as being an artist, like there comes a time when you feel like I've given best work from my side, and I need to like talk with the HR to say my do my review and like make an increment in my current salary. Did it ever happen to you that you felt you lacked on that side, or was this team leader that did the conversation of the payment increase for the artist? That's my one question. And next is like, did it ever like happen to you like in, let's say, in DreamWorks movies like How to Train Your Dragon, you felt like, oh, if I was in that project, I would have done so much better than the output that they give? Or was there a moment when you were still at Pixar and then this competitor studios, like they send you email saying, hey Jeremy, come to us and we will like scale up your salaries and everything? Did it ever happen to you?
Yes, I have gotten job offers from other studios, and sometimes it's been like, oh, do I go do that or not? I have to really think about like, what do I want? They abuse their artists. I remember working one day from 7 a.m. until midnight. And as I was going home at midnight, the art director said, you are just not committed enough to this project. And I was really offended. Like, I've been here since 7 a.m. This is way too much. I'm working 7 days a week. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm not seeing my family. This is not right. I have to walk across Los Angeles home because I couldn't afford to pay for the parking. I'm walking at midnight through homeless camps in Los Angeles. This is not right. So I went to Human Resources the next morning and said, the art director was giving me a hard time about my commitment level. Look what I'm giving, and I'm not even getting paid enough. And they said, if you don't like it, you can leave. We can fill your spot in a minute because everyone wants to work here because we're so amazing. So I finished that project and I quit. And I said, I will never work for them again. And that's happened so much now that Naughty Dog has trouble hiring people because everyone knows that that's where artists go to die. You know, that it's really a terrible, terrible, horrible place. They're starting to try to make changes because they realize that being bullies and abusers is not actually profitable in the end. But sometimes you have to have, you know, that stance. And asking for salary increases, there are a couple of things that, have you ever heard of Glassdoor.com? Glassdoor is wonderful because the studios have no control over what's posted there. You have to actually sign up. It's kind of like Facebook. You have to put your name in to say, you know, that you're a real person. But people in the industry, especially the film industry, will give reviews and say, this is how much I made at this company. And this is how I was treated as an employee. And no one has the right to take those reviews down. And no one can make fake reviews. So every time that a new studio reaches out to me and says, here's a potential job, I go straight to Glassdoor and I look at reviews from employees. And there's been times where I'm like, oh, I'm not working there. I can tell. And then I can look at the average salaries and go, I can live with that. That seems fair. So there's things that we can do to try to make sure that it's fair and equitable. And then some companies just don't want to give pay increases, but the good studios realize that everyone should be paid fairly. That's where, like Pixar, you know, $110,000 is a really good salary in the United States. San Francisco is crazy expensive, but that's a good amount of money. That's a lot, you know, and so I think they do pay very fairly. You can live there with that amount of money. And, you know, that's an important question. Smaller studios sometimes struggle with, we're going to pay you nothing because you're passionate. And I usually avoid those studios.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy, for so much insights. You know, I'm sure like here could go all night, and I know Jeremy for sure can go all night and go a few days non-stop just answering a question and being with like-minded artists like yourself. So, but you know, we had to stop at some point. So we're just gonna end the Q&A session for now, but you can still like, you know, reach out to him and have a chance to network with each other. And also, if you want to join the association, please feel free to ask any of the founding members that you saw earlier. And most importantly, like I said, talk to each other, make friends, and share your portfolios, your Instagram handles, and all that. Let's build a bigger family all together. And let's give a huge, huge, huge round of applause for Jeremy.